Sports is on the air. From Wrigley Field in Chicago, Gillette presents the World Series. Men, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. Good afternoon, baseball fans everywhere. This is Bill Slater with Al Helfer and Bill Corum greeting you for the Gillette Safety Razor Company as the Chicago Cubs and Detroit Tigers get ready for the deciding seventh game in this thrilling 1945 championship series. Gillette is on the air the year round with on-the-spot reports of leading sports events, including the Kentucky Derby, football bowl games, and similar classics. Gillette also broadcasts the major boxing match of the week regularly every Friday night. And now this afternoon in Chicago, on the shores of Lake Michigan, we await breathlessly the start of this seventh and deciding game of the 1945 series. A series that has been at the same time one of the zaniest, most thrilling, and record-smashing series in a long, long while. Records have been broken in total number of players involved, total number of pinch hitters involved, records smashed in total income, records smashed in the longest game and the point of time ever played, that 12-inning struggle on Monday. And only 36,185 are needed to come into the stands this afternoon to top the all-time attendance record set back in 1926 between the Yanks and the Cards. And three pitchers have appeared in this series, who the first time out were practically invincible but could not come through the second time. Virgil Trucks, Claude Passell, Dizzy Trout. And then there's been one pitcher who was no good the first time and came back to win the second time, and that's Hal Newhouser. And he's going to try to repeat today. And then there has been Fordham Hank Borowy, who the first time out, yes, the second time, no. And Monday, he came through for his second victory, and Borowy will be trying to place himself in the immortal halls of baseball by striving for his third victory as he pitches for the Cubs this afternoon. This has been the greatest radio hookup in the history of sports radio, with the broadcast going to Rome, to Berlin, to Tokyo, and all around the world, wherever the far-flung outposts of American military might exist today. And each team in this series has been better in the other's park than it has been at home. And One-Eyed Conley, the world's champion gate crasher, hired on as an usher, has tried to keep the owner of the park, Phil Wrigley, from coming into his own park. We've had some of the coldest weather in any of the series, and yet at the same time some of the most pleasant. And we've had Stanley Hack in that thrilling game on Monday, almost the GOAT with his 2 errors, and then coming through with 4 hits out of 5 to be the hero of the struggle, to drive in the winning run for Chicago in the last of the 12th with 2 outs. And we've had the spectacle of an error being charged against Hank Greenberg in left field, and then later in the evening, along about midnight, retracted by the official scores. So in this particular series, one of the most thrilling of all time, and the first 7-game series since the Tigers battled the Cincinnati Reds in 1940, we have had absolutely everything, and this afternoon is going to be the climax. And now to give you his own inimitable view of what's coming up this afternoon is the great sports columnist and our friend Bill Corum, looking very sharp today, Bill.
Thank you, Bill. And we're right back where we started in Detroit last Wednesday as far as this series goes. Except, of course, that whatever may happen today, saving the remote possibility of a tie game called Because of Darkness, this is payday. Steve O'Neill and Charlie Grimm led with their aces in that first game in Briggs Stadium and are going to lead with them again in this seventh and deciding game. Al Newhouser for the batting Bengals and Hank Borowy for the clawing Little Bears. Which gives Borowy a chance to tie another World Series record, by the way. If the tall Jersey right-hander should win this afternoon, he will become the second pitcher ever to win 3 games and lose 1 in the same series. I think that's true. I wouldn't want to bet all the tea in China on it, even if I had all the tea in China, but I believe that grand pitcher of the Chicago White Sox of many seasons back, old Urban the Red Faber, won 3 games in the 1917 World Series and lost 1. Of course, Matheson, Jack Holmes, the only pitcher beside Borowy ever to win for both leagues, Stan Kovaleski, Babe Adams, and Faber all have won 3 games in one series. But none except Faber ever won 3 and also lost 1. And that will be Borowy's record if he can come through this afternoon. If Newhouser's arm was in good shape, you'd have to give him a distinct edge over Borowy and most any other flinger around today as well. But we all know that, unfortunately, Bonnie Prince Hal's arm is not in the best possible shape. Indeed, he's expected to have it operated on during the off-season. It's that bad, or so we understand. On the other hand, Newhouser has had 1 day more rest than Borowy. So the best guess is that, like the previous games and the series itself, this decisive one will be a toss-up where anything can happen. And it isn't as if practically everything hasn't already happened. We've had about everything except a triple play, a balk, and a wedding at home plate. I was happy to see the official scorers change their ruling on Hack's hit that won Monday's 12-inning thriller. If you happened to be listening then, you know how disconcerted and confused I got trying to get the totals of the game straight in my post-game summary. That was partly because I couldn't find on my card where Detroit had more than one error. It turned out that on Hack's hit, the first ruling by the official scorers, Martin Haley, Ed Burns, Henry Salsinger, and Fred Lieb, four of the most competent baseball men around and all eminently fair gentlemen, had been that it was a single for Stan and an error for Hank Greenberg. But it couldn't have been an error for Lank Hank, really. The ball bounced completely and cleanly over his head. The ruling would have made him something of a GOAT for Detroit, which he definitely didn't deserve to be. On the contrary, he has been one of old Tig's staunchest heroes, if not the staunchest. It happened that sitting here in the radio booth well down the third baseline, Bill Slater, who called the play on Hack's hit, and I were both in the perfect position to watch the ball. And it took practically a perpendicular hop just before it reached Greenberg's hands, which were extended toward it on the ground. By the way, we're so far down the third baseline that we're almost past the big screen back of home plate, which incidentally isn't a screen at all, but a Grand Banks fishing net sent, if my memory serves me, to the elder Wrigley by some friend for his new and beautiful park here. Anyhow, Slater says that it is a very sane thing to have here, but remember, he said it and I didn't. Now, Baroy's record, if it materializes, is not the only one that will be tied, set, and broken in this game. All sorts of new records will fall, but you've heard most of that from Slater's already. The main thing is the game itself. I hope it'll be just half as exciting and pulse-pounding as Monday's sensational Battle Royal. And that the better team will win it, and the series too, of course. It's been a wonderful series, even if it hasn't produced the best baseball ever seen by a mighty long shot. The fans have loved it as they should, and it's been a real pleasure and privilege for us to bring it to you listeners the best we could, particularly to our boys over and on the seas, in the Pacific, Japan, Europe, on their ships, and everywhere they are. Which reminds me, Harry Roberts, baseball writer for the Chicago Daily News and a lieutenant in the Navy, Brother Helper, flew in from San Francisco this morning to see the final game and root for the Cubs. He just landed from the carrier Ticonderoga, straight from Tokyo, and he heard the broadcast of the other games at sea by shortwave. And that's that for now, fans, but I'll be back to give you a quick summary of the highlights when the game ends.
Fans, there's little doubt that Americans want a hard peace for those guilty of starting the war. But none of us wants a hard peace for the millions of destitute men, women, and children in allied countries freed from Axis enslavement. Yet without our help, cruel and bitter times lie ahead for the folks who are still fighting famine, pestilence, and cold. One of the chief hopes for their salvation lies in the National War Fund, a federation of 19 major relief and welfare agencies. These agencies are over there distributing blankets to people who have shivered for years, cod liver oil for undernourished children, seeds to replant farms, medicine to fight plagues, and they are doing many other life-saving tasks. So when you're asked to donate to the Community War Fund, dig down deep, please. Be generous in victory. Now here are the Detroit and Chicago batting orders as we come up to just a few moments before the start of this thrilling seventh and final game of this Fight 45 series. For Detroit, here's the batting order. The leadoff hitter, as usual, will be the shortstop, Jimmy Webb. Batting number 2 will be the second baseman, Eddie Mayo. Batting third will be the center fielder, Roger Kramer, C-R-A-M-E-R. Batting fourth will be big Captain Hank Greenberg, the left fielder. Batting fifth will be Roy Cullenbine, the right fielder. Batting number 6 will be Rudolph York, the first baseman. Batting number 7, Jimmy Outlaw, the third baseman. Batting number 8, Paul Richards, the veteran catcher. And batting ninth, young Prince Hal Newhouser, the talented lefty who is a Detroit boy all the way. So there's the batting order for the Detroit Tigers. For the home-standing and embattled Chicago Cubs, they will bat in this order. The leadoff hitter will be Stanley Hack, the third baseman, who is the hitting star of the series up to this point. Batting number 2 for Chicago, second baseman Don Johnson. Batting third, left fielder Harry Lowry, L-O-W-R-E-Y. Batting fourth, the star first baseman Phil Cavaretta, Chicago boy all the way. Batting number 5, center fielder Handy Andy Pafko, P-A-F-K-O. Batting sixth, the big right fielder Bill Nicholson, N-I-C-H-O-L-S-O-N. Batting number 7, the redoubtable catcher Mickey Livingston. Batting number 8, the veteran shortstop Roy Hughes. And batting number 9th and trying for the Ironman stunt in the 1945 series, Fordham Hank Baroy, the New Jerseyite who is just now completing his warm-up pitches down in front of the Cub dugout down the third base line. Here are the umpires: Art Passarella of the American League at the plate, Jocko Conlon of the National League at first, Billy Summers of the American League at second, and Lou Jorda of the National League at third. Now that's the way the scene is set at this particular moment, and while we're waiting for the umpires to come to home plate to confer with the rival managers, Jolly Charlie Grimm and Stout Steve O'Neill, we're going to pause 10 seconds here for station identification. Remember, men, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
This is WGN Chicago, serving the Middle West.
In the huddle between representatives of the two clubs and the umpires now going on down at home plate, which is, of course, always the part of the last moments before a game begins, Phil Cavaretta, the playing captain of the Chicago Cubs, is representing Chicago, and Steve O'Neill representing the Detroit Tigers. Now the umpires are fanning out. Incidentally, the alternate umpires here are Charlie Berry of the American League and Lee Ballantyne of the National League. They just dress and sit in the dugouts every day, and it's a very sweet job. Steve O'Neill is moving down to third base now, where he's going to coach, and the Chicago team is coming on the field. Art Mills will coach at first for the Detroit Tigers. And now, with the Cubs out on the field in their proper defensive order, the whole crowd, and it's a throng, rises to its feet. Heads are bared. Hands snap up a right-hand salute on the part of the military personnel here. And Armin Hand's band plays the national anthem. Now is the most glorious flag that ever rode the breeze, flies high from the flagstaff in deep center field with bank flags of the United Nations on its right and on its left. Everything is all set for the start of this 7th and deciding game of this great 45 series. And all set, looking very sharp and feeling very sharp, is our colleague on these broadcasts who will bring you the first 4.5 innings of play, big, handsome Al Helfer.
Well, thanks, Bill. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Rather chilly here in Chicago, as Bill has already told you this afternoon. But nevertheless, we're expecting a humdinger of a ball game. This 7th consecutive World Series that Gillette has brought you. It goes down to the 7th and final game of the entire series. And I think that Ed Wilhelm, who is sitting over here to our left, is probably just as anxious as everyone else here in the stands and in the radio booth to see this ball game get underway. Also very anxious this afternoon is Hank Baroy. I talked to the Fordham Ghost just before the ball game started, and he wants this one. And naturally, so does Hal Newhouser. We spoke briefly with him, too, just before we came up from the playing field up to the radio booth. And these two pitchers will be out there, and as the boys in the trade say, they'll be bowing their neck this afternoon to try to get this final win, to put their team up on top. The umpires, as given you by Bill Slater, are correct. Passarelli at the plate, Conlon at first, Summers at second, and Jorda at third. The lineups, as given you by Bill, are intact also. And we should like to pass this on at the start of this ball game, that the Chicago Cubs, as far as batting is concerned, are out-hitting the Detroit Tigers with a team percentage, as they field right now, of .288, while the Detroit Tigers have a percentage of .202. And Skeeter Webb, who is hitting at .174, the Detroit shortstop, is standing in right now, hitting right-handed. Baroy pitches him, and it's taken on the inside for ball one. So this ball game, the 7th and final game in the 1945 World Series, has now gotten underway here at Wrigley Field in Chicago. Broy throws again, and there's a high curve on the outside for ball 2. So Hank has gotten behind now to the Detroit shortstop. 2 balls, no strikes. The outfield playing straight away and not very deep on Skeeter Webb. Broy throws another curve in there that's good for a strike. And now it's 2-1. Webb has had 4 hits in 23 at-bats here in the World Series of 1945. He takes the next pitch, and it's right through the middle for a called strike, and that's 2-2. 2 balls, 2 strikes. The first hitter up for Detroit here in the very top half of the first inning. Broy kicks, twists, throws a high curve, and almost got away from Livingston. That's ball 3 to Skeeter Webb. 3-2. Hank Broy on the mound for Chicago. His battery mate is Mickey Livingston. Broy throws 3-2. Webb swings on it. There's a clean base hit through the hole between first and second and into right field. And Skeeter Webb opens the top of the first inning with a single to right field. And that, incidentally, in the series is hit number 19 off Broy. Hit number 1 off him this afternoon. The batter now hitting at .217 is second baseman Eddie Mayo of Detroit. He hits left-handed and is opening his stance more of late. He pulls that right foot down toward first base. Sort of guards the plate slightly from behind. Broy checks his runner at first, throws to the plate. Mayo swings on it. There's another clean base hit right through the hole into right field. Skeeter Webb is coming off second base. There's Nicholson's throw into third, but it's not nearly in time. With the hit and run on, Webb moves into third base as Mayo singles behind him into right field. That's hit number 2 off Broy, and that's the 20th base hit he's given up here in the 1945 World Series. And Paul Derringer starts hurriedly to get ready down in the Chicago bullpen. So big Paul Derringer is starting to throw very rapidly. Runners at first and third for Detroit. No outs. And here is Doc Kramer, who is tied for the number 4 spot in hitting honors of all the ball players playing in the series. He's hitting at .333, as is Captain Hank Greenberg. But Kramer, hitting left-handed, is up there now. There's a quick throw to first base just to keep Mayo close. Cavaretta returns that ball to the mound. Now Broy is ready. Checks the plate. Throws to the plate. There's a low curve on the outside to Doc Kramer for ball 1. 1 ball, no strikes. This is the top of the first inning, and the Detroit Tigers are threatening. Broy checks a runner at first, now at third, then throws a high curve in there that's looped out into short left field. It may fall in for a base hit. It does fall in. Here comes Webb in from third, easily to score. And it's 1-0 Detroit. Skeeter Webb was on at third base. Doc Kramer hit an outside pitch and blooped it out behind third into left field. And Hughes, the shortstop, went back, and he couldn't get it. So the first run comes in, and that's hit number 3 off Broy, and I think that's going to be all for Hank. The score is 1-0 in favor of Detroit, and that is the 6th run Hank Broy has given up in the 1945 World Series, and it's definitely an earned run. All 6 runs he has given up have been earned. And I believe Paul Derringer is going to be called upon right here in the top half of the first inning. Yes, here comes Paul Derringer. So Broy can't get anybody out in the top half of the first inning. This is quite a spot for the veteran Paul Derringer to be coming into. He'll pitch first of all to Hank Greenberg. That's a pretty tough customer. So Paul Derringer is being called upon. Hank Broy apparently did not have his stuff this afternoon against Detroit. So Derringer has come on. As far as Derringer is concerned, he's done a little pitching before in this series also. He's pitched 3 2/3 innings. There's a round of applause for Hank Broy. As far as World Series appearance prior to this year, Paul Derringer has won 2 and lost 4. Derringer pitched, if you recall, for St. Louis, the Cardinals, also for the Cincinnati Reds in the National League. He pitched in the 31 series, he pitched in the 39 series, and his last series was in 1940. He was with Cincinnati then and pitched against these self-same Detroit Tigers. And his series record up until now is 2 wins and 4 defeats. Paul's a grand veteran of the game. Kentucky born and bred, and he's out there right now. Pitch for Chicago. The pitch, as we said, first of all to Hank Greenberg. Now here's the position in the top of the first inning. One run has been scored by Detroit. We'll review it for you. Webb singled through the hole between first and second and out into right field on a 3-2 pitch. Eddie Mayo came up then, and with the hit-and-run flash, Skeeter Webb was on his way for second. And Eddie Mayo, a left-handed hitter, drilled the ball nicely between first and second and into right to put Webb on at third. Then Doc Kramer came up and hit a fast outside pitch and blooped it into left field for a base hit. And that put Mayo on second and scored Webb from third. So there are no outs here in the top of the first inning. The Tigers lead 1-0, and Greenberg is up at bat. He's had 7 hits in 21 tries here in this World Series, and he's hitting at .333. Tall, right-hand hitter, stands just off the plate. Now Derringer is ready. He'll make his first pitch here in the first inning. Throws, and there's a bunt pushed down to first base. Phil Cavarretta picks it up, steps over on the first base line, and tags Greenberg out unassisted as the runners move on. So Greenberg, despite the fact he's a terrific slugger, was sent up by Steve O'Neill to sacrifice the boys along, and he successfully did so. Phil Cavarretta taking care of the put out at first base. So Kramer on the sacrifice moves over to second base, and Eddie Mayo moves down to third. Now here's Roy Cullenbine, who is hitting at .250. And they're going to intentionally walk Cullenbine. Despite the fact that he's only had 5 hits and 20 times up, Cullenbine can be a pretty tough customer. So Charlie Grimm has ordered Derringer to put him on. There's the second ball pitched way wide. There's the third one. And now pitch out number 4. That's the 6th time that Roy Cullenbine has drawn a base on balls here in this World Series. That is the first base on balls issued this afternoon. It's given up by Derringer. Now with the bases loaded, Cullenbine at first, Kramer at second, Mayo at third, and 1 out. The batter up there is Rudy York. It's a 1-0 ball game in favor of the Detroit Tigers. It's tooth and nail here this afternoon, and it will be for the entire length of this ball game. Derringer winds up slowly, delivers, change of pace curve. It's in for a strike. That was a 3/4 overhand curveball, the change pace variety, and big Rudy York took it. Eddie Mayo leads down off third. Kramer steps off second, and Cullenbine moves off first. Derringer pitches. York takes, and it's a low curve under his knees for ball 1. 1 ball, 1 strike is the count on Rudy York. He's hitting at .208 for his work in the series. He's had 5 hits for 24 official at-bats. We've got a lot of activity down in the Chicago bullpen. Now Derringer pitches. York takes, and there's a fast one in for a strike. Big Umpah just reared back and fogged it in. He looked like the Derringer of old that time. He doesn't throw that high hard one so much anymore. But when he cuts it loose, it's still got plenty of that stuff on it. Down in the bullpen, Claude Passot and Hy Vandenberg are both getting ready for Chicago. Now here comes the next 1-2 delivery. York takes it. It's a high curve to level off the count at 2-2. 2 balls, 2 strikes. The bases are jammed here with Tigers in the top of the first inning. Only 1 out. Detroit has once scored, and they lead 1-0. Baroy is out of there now, and Paul Derringer is trying to put out this Detroit fire. Derringer kicks high. The big 6-footer throws, and there's a low sweeping curve on the outside for ball 3. Derringer stands 6'4" and weighs 230 pounds. 39-year-old veteran, and he has plenty of pressure on his shoulders right now. But he's been in spots like this before. Here's the 3-2 pitch to Rudy York. It's a fast curve. It's hit out to right field. It may fall in for a base hit. Nicholson goes over near the line, and it just falls foul. It just falls foul by inches out back of right field. Rudy York almost hit one, but it just veered off and went foul by inches way deep in the corner. So that means that Rudy York is going to have to come back and do it all over again. Paul Derringer is going to have to throw another 3-2 pitch to a very dangerous hitter. That's a tense situation here in the top half of the first inning. The 7th game of the World Series here at Wrigley Field in Chicago. And now the sun is coming out. It's getting a little more brilliant down on the diamond. Still very cool. Quite a bit of wind blowing from behind home out towards center field. Here's the 3-2 pitch. York swings and fouls it off. The count stays at 3-2. case you just tuned in or just hooked up with us, the score is 1-0 Detroit. 1 out, the bases loaded, and Rudy York at bat with the count of 3-2, and Derringer has relieved Baroy. He pitches now, and York swings, and there's a high foul up to the right of the plate. Mickey Livingston scoots back, but he can't get it. It's way back into the stands. So the count stays at 3-2 on Rudy York. The Chicago infield playing their normal fielding depth. Of course, they're hoping that Derringer will get Rudy York to hit onto the ground. And that's just the thing that the Tigers do not want to see happen. The outfield is playing very deep to Rudy York. They have a right to do so because he clouts a long ball. He gave evidence of that down at Briggs Stadium in Detroit. He's probably hit the longest ball in this entire series. He hit that ball well over 400 feet, and it was cut. Down in the bullpen for the Chicago Cubs, still throwing very hard, Claude Passau and Hy Vandenberg, just in case Derringer has any trouble here in trying to get Detroit out at the top of the first inning. We'll go over the situation for you. At third base is Eddie Mayo. At second base is Doc Kramer. And at first base, purposely walked, is Roy Cullenbine. So the bases are jammed. Score 1-0 Tigers. And Derringer's ready to throw 3-2 to Rudy York. Down it rides. York swings on it. There's a high infield pop-up. Down at shortstop is Stanley Hack floating in front of Hughes, and he takes it for the out. So that's the second out now for Detroit in the top half of the first inning. And Paul Derringer came down behind the plate to back up that play just in case. And he picked up Mickey Livingston's mask and handed it to Mickey and patted him on the back as if to say, you helped me get him out of that one. Well, that was the all-important out as far as Derringer was concerned. Still, he's not out of the woods by a long shot. The bases are still loaded here with Tigers in the top of the first inning. And Jimmy Outlaw, who is hitting at 167, is standing in. Outlaw, a right-handed choke hitter, stands deep at the plate, and the little fellow sort of crouches over slightly from the waist. Derringer pitches him, and Outlaw takes. And there's a low curve at his knees for ball one. Mayo takes his lead off third. It's a generous lead. Derringer's paying him no mind. He's busily engaged pitching to Outlaw, the Detroit third baseman. Outlaw's had 4 hits and 24 at-bats in this series. Derringer pitches him, and there's a curveball that slides off on the inside for ball 2. The outfielder stepped up a couple of steps to Outlaw. He doesn't hit a particularly long ball. He's more of a punch hitter. Now Derringer, big 6'4" right-hander, delivers, and there's a high curve right off the point of the chin of Outlaw for ball 3. 3 balls, no strikes. Derringer visits that Rosenbag. As far as he's concerned, there's an awful lot riding with every pitch he makes. Down comes the next one. Outlaw takes it, and it's on the inside for ball 4, and that forces in Mayo from third. That's the second walk given up by Derringer, but he lost this man. He walked Cullenbine purposely. However, that run is charged against Baroy. So it's a 2-0 ball game now in favor of the Detroit Tigers. Paul Richards comes wandering up to the plate to do a little hitting for Detroit. He's the 8th man to come up here in the top half of the first inning. So Cullenbine moves over to second, and Kramer takes his station at third as Outlaw goes down on the walk and takes his position at first. The bases are still loaded, still 2 outs. Score Detroit 2, Chicago nothing. Derringer winds slowly, kicks high, throws a fast curve that's low under the knees of Richards for ball 1. This tall Texan stands almost straight up and down at the plate and hits him right-handed. He stands deep just as far back as he possibly can. He's hitting at 133, 2 for 15. He swings on the next pitch and falls down as he foul tips it. Well, the count on Richards now is 1-1. 1 ball, 1 strike. The outfield fans slightly around the left, and out in left field, Peanuts Lowry is playing deep to Paul Richards. Hughes at shortstop has come down a couple of steps toward the foul line, the left field foul line, and he's playing deep in the hole at shortstop. Derringer throws. There's a fast one swung on and fouled back into the screen for strike 2. So the count on Richards is 1 ball, 2 strikes. There are 2 outs on Detroit here in the top of the first inning. They lead the Cubs by a margin of 2 runs as the score stands. Detroit 2, Chicago nothing. Derringer in a lot of trouble, not of his own making, but nevertheless he's had to shoulder the burden. He's out there. He throws 1 and 2 now, and Richards swings. There's a fly ball going deep into left field. It may drop in, and it may not. It is in fair territory, drops in the corner. In comes Kramer to score. Cullenbine is also coming in. Outlaw comes around, and he too scores. It's a double for Richards. Well, 3 more runs come piling in for Detroit here in the top of the first inning. Detroit has a total now of 5. The man at the plate is Hal Newhouser, hitting left-handed, and he takes the first pitch high for ball 1. Richards leads down off second base. Derringer pitches, and there's one swung on and missed for a strike. So the count on Newhouser is 1-1. Newhouser has just been announced. There's a count of 1-1 on him. He swings on the next pitch and hits a foul ball out back of left field, and it falls away into the seats. So the count on him now is 1 ball, 2 strikes. Paul Richards just hammered in 3 more runs for the Tigers, and they lead 5-0. Derringer throws. There's a low curve under the knees of Newhouser for ball 2. That makes his count 2-2. Hal hitting left-handed, standing very deep at the plate, sort of guarding it from behind. 4 runs have been scored off Baroy and 1 run off Derringer. Now Paul is ready. Down comes the next pitch, and Newhouser hits one down to second base. Johnson comes up with it at second, throws to Phil Cavaretta, and that's all for Newhouser, going out 4-3. Well, we'll count up the damage now. In the first inning, as 9 men came to bat for Detroit. A total of 5 runs on 1, 2, 3, 4 hits. There was 1 man left, and there were no errors. So at the end of the top of the first inning, Detroit leads in the 7th game of the World Series, 5-0. And now, men, before this final game of the 1945 World Series goes any further, let me point out that you look better and feel better when you shave the smooth, refreshing All Gillette way. Yes, when you soften your whiskers with Gillette shaving cream, lather or brushless, and whisk them off with today's Gillette Blue Blade in your Gillette razor, your face looks and feels its very best. You see, Gillette shaving creams are thoroughgoing, fast-acting beard softeners that hold abundant moisture and stay wet on your face. What's more, today's Gillette Blue Blade has the sharpest, smoothest finished edges that ever sailed through a fellow's whiskers. Working together, they give you the swellest shaves of your life. Ask your dealer for Gillette brushless or Gillette lather, a quarter, and shave this easier All Gillette way. Remember, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. Now for the last half of inning number 1. It's a 5-0 ball game in favor of the Detroit Tigers as they went out and got themselves 5 right in the very first frame. They got themselves 5 runs on 4 hits. 3 hits coming off Baroy and 1, a damaging double coming off the offering of Derringer. Now Stanley Hack gets a round of applause as he steps up to the plate to be the first Chicago Cub hitter. He's leading all hitters here in the series at 440. He takes the first pitch as Newhouser zips a fast one in there for a strike. Hack hitting left-handed, stands deep at the plate. Newhouser takes his sign from Paul Richards, pumps once. 24-year-old left-hander delivers, and Hack hits the ball down to third, and it's foul just outside of the bag. So the count on Stanley Hack is no balls, 2 strikes. Hack's had 11 hits for 25 at-bats here in this series for a percentage of .440 as he stands at the plate this red-hot second. If he gets another base hit, he's going to be able to tie a record of long standing. We'll tell you about that if and when it happens. He takes the next pitch, and it's a curve in there for called strike 3, and Hack knew it. So the first man Newhouser faces, he strikes out here in the last of the first inning. And that's strikeout number 1 for Newhouser this afternoon. That's strikeout number 13 for him in his 11 and 2/3 innings pitched in the World Series. Now Don Johnson hitting at 167. It's right-handed to standing in. He takes a look at the first pitch, and it's a high curve up above the letters of the shirt. That's ball 1. 1 ball, no strikes. Newhouser gets ready. Young Paul throws a fast one in there that's hit out over shortstop and out into left center field. Doc Kramer chases it, picks it up, but Johnson is on his way to second. Here comes the throw. It's not in time, and Johnson slides, and he's safe at second with a double. Don Johnson has just gotten his 5th hit on his 25th at-bat here in the series. Doubles to left center field. And Peanuts Lowry, hitting a 280, is standing up to the plate right now. Newhouser delivers him, and Lowry takes a high curve up above his shoulder. That's ball 1. Peanuts Lowry hits right-handed and stands deep at the plate. Legs wide, spread apart. Newhouser throws a fast one in there, and Lowry swings and doesn't get it. The 1-1 count now on the Chicago left fielder, Harry Peanuts Lowry. Johnson with his double is on at second base. That is the second extra base blow here in the 7th game of the World Series. Both of them have been hitting the left field. Richards in the first inning for Detroit hit one very nicely down into the left field corner. That double of his scored 3 runs for Detroit. They lead, you know, right now 5-0. Newhouser checks back at second. Looks at Johnson. Now throws to the plate. Lowry pushes the butt back toward the mound. It's picked up by Newhouser, and he bobbles it for the moment. Picks up, throws, not in time. Well, Hal Newhouser went after Peanuts Lowry's bunt, and by the time he got his hands on it, he bobbled it for the moment, and then too late to first base. So Chicago has runners at first and second. The official scorer will give us his verdict in a minute. But Al Bent was starting to get ready down in the Tiger bullpen. Now here's Phil Cavaretta, hitting left-handed. And an error is being charged against Hal Newhouser. But Johnson is on at second, and Lowry is on at first. Down it comes. Phil swings on it. It's a base hit to right field. Johnson comes whistling by third, comes on into score, and Lowry slides into third. Phil Cavaretta teed off on one and smacked it right past Eddie Mayo and out into right field for a base hit. And on the blow, Don Johnson came on in from second to score. And Peanuts Lowry, running on the blow, moved into third base. So now Chicago has runners at first and third, 1 out, and the score is 5-1 in favor of Detroit. And there's a big conference right now down at the mound with Hal Newhouser. Eddie Mayo is in on that conference, and Paul Richards. And he has Paul Richards, for a new shin protector. His shin guard has been snapped in this last operation. So he's getting a new one. Time has been called for it. And that off Hal Newhouser, we would like to go back and say, is the second hit here in this ball game. It is the 17th hit he's given up in the World Series, and that is the 12th run that has been gotten off Newhouser. The first one this afternoon. It's a 5-1 ball game in favor of the Detroit Tigers. And the Chicago Cubs are also bearing their claws here in the last half of the first. They're trying desperately to get back into this ball game because it's winner today taking the series. Now standing up at the plate is Andy Pafko, who is hitting at 208. He takes the first curve, and it's in there for a strike. Just sort of automatically call it a curve when Newhouser delivers because he's got quite an assortment. Pafko is hitting at 208, as we said. He has had 5 hits for 24 at-bats. Pafko swings on the next pitch as the ball hit the short. It's played back to Mayo for 1 out. The throw on to first, 2 outs. That's the first double play here this afternoon. Andy Pafko hit one down to Skeeter Webb at short. He played it very nicely back to Eddie Mayo for the force out on Cavaretta coming down. And then Mayo whipped it over to first base. And that's all. Well, Chicago scores 1 time here in the last half of the first inning. 1 run on 2 hits. There was a man left, and there was 1 Detroit error. So at the end of one full inning of play, the score stands 5-1 in favor of the Detroit Tigers as we go into the top half of inning number 2 right here at Wrigley Field in Chicago. And Paul Derringer comes out of the dugout, moves out to the mound now to start the top of the second inning. But before we get into the top of the second inning, we have just a few moments, seconds as a matter of fact, to pause for station identification. So remember, men, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
This is WGN Chicago, serving Middle West.
Skeeter Webb here at Wrigley Field will start the second batting around for the Detroit Tigers. He's starting off in the top of the second inning. Derringer kicks high and throws, and Webb swings on a fast curve and misses for strike one. Webb got himself a single at right field in the first inning. Derringer pitches left, swings. There's a long fly ball into center field. Andy Pafko goes back, still going back, reaches over his head and takes it for the out. A long fly ball to center field. That guy Andy Pafko can go get him out in that outer orchard. He went back and took it. The batter coming up to the plate now for Detroit is Eddie Mayo. He's had 6 hits now for 24 at-bats. Hit nicely behind Skeeter Webb in the first inning to move Jimmy around third. Mayo hitting left-handed. Derringer curves him. It's a medium-speed curveball. And Mayo ran up on it as if to bunt and then took it. Aldis bat down off his shoulder, and it was outside for ball one. Well, some of the crowd here roaring its disapproval. The call of that one. But Mayo didn't attempt to lay that wood on the horse hide at all. Derringer comes down with the next pitch. Mayo swings on it, and there's a fly ball to center. Andy Pafko backs just one step and takes it for the out. And that's all for Mayo, clouding one into straightaway center field. So very quickly now in the top of the second inning, there are 2 outs for Detroit. And that brings to bat Doc Kramer. Doc hit the first run in here in this ball game with a looping fly ball into left field. It got Webb in from third. So he's had 1 hit and 1 try this afternoon. Doc hitting left-handed. Derringer tries a blooper ball in there that floats in and over to Doc Kramer for a called strike. Derringer's been working on that pitch all year. Pretty well has it mastered. He tries it again as a knuckler. He threw this time and missed with it just outside. It's 1-1. 1 ball, 1 strike. Derringer doesn't throw that knuckler a great many times, but he's got pretty good control of it. Big Paul winds now, kicks high, throws a fastball. It's taken low under the knees. That's ball 2. 2 balls, 1 strike. This is the top of the second inning. Detroit, 2 outs, no base runners, and they lead in this ball game 5-1. Derringer pumps, throws. There's a ball laced very solidly out into right field for a base hit for Doc Kramer. So Kramer singles to right. That's hit number 2 of Derringer. Hit number 5 as far as the Detroit Tigers are concerned. And now they have as many hits as they have runs. Well, if 5 is any significance, the guy coming up to the plate is wearing a big 5 on the back of his uniform shirt. That's Hank Greenberg. He sacrificed successfully in the first inning, so his pregame batting percentage of .333 for the series remains intact. He's looking for base hit number 8. Derringer curves him, and there's a fast one through there for a strike. No balls, 1 strike on Hank Greenberg, hitting right-handed. Hank hauls his bat down as if to bunt and then takes the pitch, and it's high and on the outside. That levels the count out to Hank at 1-1. 1 ball, 1 strike. Kramer leads off at first. Cavaretta straddle on the inside corner, holds him close. Derringer checks his runner, then throws to the plate, and Greenberg takes a high curve for ball 2. 2 balls, 1 strike. Hy Vandenberg is still throwing down in the Chicago bullpen, just in case Derringer is going to have any trouble here in the second inning. Greenberg takes another curve, and Derringer thought he had it in, but it was a little low for ball 3. Derringer comes down off the mound and starts to beat to plate umpire Art Passarelli of the American League. Derringer still chinning and jawing with Passarelli. Now Passarelli motions him to go back to the mound and pitch. Derringer starts back there, climbs up on the hill. He's a big fellow, this Derringer. He's quite a competitor. The count he has on Greenberg, who's equally big. 3-1. course, Hank doesn't weigh quite as much as Derringer does. But you put them both together on the same side of a teeter board, and they'll hold it down for you. There, Derringer throws quickly to first base, trying to pick off Kramer, but Doc is in time. Now he throws 3-1 to the plate to Derringer, and it's a high curve for ball 4. Greenberg is walked. That pushes Kramer down to second. That's the third base on balls given up by Derringer. His control has been responsible for 2 of them. He was ordered to walk Cullenbine in the first inning. Now the batter standing in for Detroit is Cullenbine, and he was walked purposely in his first at-bat, so he's coming up for his first official turn right now. Runners at first and second and 2 outs. Cullenbine takes a sweeping curve that's low and down by his shins for ball 1. Mickey Livingston came up very nicely with that pitch. Now Derringer gets ready, sights, serves, and the fast one is low. That's ball 2. Set the Cubs for you defensively now. Derringer on the mound, Livingston behind the plate. At first is Cavaretta, at second is Don Johnson. At third is Stanley Hack, and at short is Roy Hughes. Lowry is in left field, Pafko in center, and Bill Nicholson in right. Now the runners take their lead as Derringer throws 2-0, swung on, beaten down into the ground foul, and that's strike 1. Derringer's ready. Roy started this ball game for the Cubs. He was belted out in the first inning. Derringer has come on, and he's out there throwing now for the Cubs. He's throwing 2-1 to Roy Cullenbine. 2 outs and 2 on here for Detroit in the second. Cullenbine swings on a high curve and misses it for strike 2. So the count on Roy Cullenbine, the Detroit right fielder, is 2 balls, 2 strikes. There are 2 outs, 2 on in the second inning. That's a flock of deuces. Now Derringer's ready. Down he comes with the 2-2 pitch and misses with it high for ball 3. Now it's a 3-2 situation. Roy Cullenbine, who is a pretty good clutch hitter. The score is 5-1 in favor of Detroit as it now stands, but they're threatening here in the second inning. Derringer delivers 3-2, and Cullenbine swinging on it, fouls it back at first base on the ground. Well, the count stays right on at 3-2. Steve O'Neill running his ball club from behind third base in the coach's box there. Puts on all kinds of signs. Cullenbine standing outside the batter's box watching him, too. He wants to get everything the boss has to say. Now we're all ready. Derringer throws 3-2. Cullenbine takes, and it's high and outside for ball 4. And that is the 4th base on balls given up by Derringer. And the second time, Cullenbine has been walked. So Greenberg moves down to second, and Kramer, with 2 outs, moves over to third. So Derringer's gotten himself in a little bit of trouble here by his own wildness. The bases are loaded with Tigers in the second, and the batter is Rudy York. Big Kickapoo takes a fast one in there for a strike. That Derringer and that York, they're a couple of fellows about the same size. Ball over his head easily, kicks, throws. Rudy at the plate takes a fast one in there again for a strike. That was poured over the inside corner just above the knees. Derringer looks down at Mickey Livingston. The Chicago catcher sets him up as a target. Here comes the 0-2 delivery. York takes it, and it's just under his knees for ball 1. The bases are completely populated here in the second inning. Kramer's at third, Greenberg at second, and Cullenbine at first. There are 2 away. Rudy York up there with a count of 1 ball, 2 strikes. Derringer throws to him, and York sits down into the dirt at a high curve. Came right off the point of his chin. So the count on York now is 2 balls, 2 strikes. Derringer taking his time now as he studies this situation very carefully. It's a 2-2 count on Rudy York. Derringer throws, York swings, and there's a ball hit out back of right field, and it falls off foul by about 5 feet. That was a line drive spiked by Rudy York. He hit a high outside pitch and dumped it out back of right field. So the count stays right on to Rudy at 2-2. York's a little base hit hungry. He'd like to get himself a hold of one. Of course, Derringer has other ideas as he gets ready for this next 2-2 delivery. Down it rides. York swings on it and gets just enough of it to tip it foul. It scoots back on the ground all the way to the screen. Now, the count on York is 2-2. The count in the ball game is Detroit 5 and Chicago 1. Derringer hasn't waded through the tall grass here yet in the second inning. He's having himself a little trouble. He winds, throws 2-2. York takes a high curve for ball 3. Now it's 3-2. It's gone right down to the wire, and when Mickey Livingston fired that ball back to the mound, Paul Derringer sort of snapped it right out of the air with his gloved hand. He's a little mad at himself out there at the mound right now. It's a 3-2 count on Rudy York. The bases loaded and 2 outs. We're in the top of the second inning. Derringer throws 3-2, and it's taken by Rudy York on the inside for ball 4. So another Detroit run is pushed across the plate as Doc Kramer comes over to score from third base. The bases remain loaded as Greenberg takes his station at third, and Cullenbine moves down to second. That is walk number 5 and run number 2 given up by Derringer. And the score stands now at 6 for Detroit and 1 for Chicago. And I think that's going to be all for Big Paul Derringer. Yes, he's coming out of there now, and Hy Vandenberg, another right-hander, is going to come on to pitch for Chicago. So Derringer is all through. He came in and pitched the first inning after Beroy couldn't get anyone out. So he pitched 1 inning and 2/3 of the second. So he's pitched 1 2/3 innings, and he's out of there. This is not Derringer's ball game to lose, should it wind up this way, because he came in with his ball club behind. Now stands it's Beroy's game, but Hy Vandenberg is coming on here. Vandenberg. Hy Vandenberg pitching in the second inning with 2 away and the bases loaded, and he'll throw first of all to Outlaw, the third baseman. As far as Vandenberg is concerned, here in this World Series, he has pitched 2 2/3 innings in relief. He's given up a couple of bases on balls. He struck out no one. He's won none, lost none. So Vandenberg takes the mound for Chicago. He's the third pitcher for Charlie Grimm.
Hy Vandenberg. Now pitching. Hy Vandenberg.
Jimmy Outlaw steps up there with the bases loaded. Greenberg at third, Cullenbine at second, and York at first. It's a 6-1 ball game in favor of Detroit. Vandenberg delivers. It's a 3/4 overhand pitch. It's in there for a strike. Little Jimmy Outlaw came up in the first inning, and he too was walked. So his pregame batting percentage for the series of 167 is still intact. Vandenberg, the grab-boned right-hander, delivers. There's a swooping curveball that misses just outside. Outlaw digs back in. Stands deep at the plate. Holds that bat high on his right shoulder. Vandenberg twists, throws a curveball. It's hit right back to the mound. Vandenberg knocks it down with his body, then picks it up, throws it to Cavaretta, and that's all for Outlaw and the Tigers in the second. So Vandenberg gets him out of there, but not before they'd scored a run. 1 run on 1 hit. 3 men left and there were no errors. So at the end of 1.5 innings of play, the score stands the Tigers 6 and the Cubs 1. Well, while there's a moment, I want to bring baseball's famous pinch-hitting pitcher, Red Ruffing of the New York Yankees, to the microphone. Red, the standout pitcher of the American League, is the leading World Series pitcher of all time, having won 7 consecutive victories and being charged with only 2 defeats. Red, I wish you'd tell the fans what you told me last evening about the slick, easy shaves you get with the Gillette Blue Blade.
Just what I said, Al. I can't get a decent shave with any other blade.
Go on and tell them about it, Red.
Okay, Al. I said your line. Look sharp, feel sharp. It sums the story up for me. The fellow does look better and feel better when he shaves with that Gillette Blue Blade.
Well, that's what I wanted you to give the fans, Red. Thanks, Red Ruffing. Remember, men, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. Now in the last half of the second inning, the first man up for Chicago is going to be Bill Nicholson. Bill is hitting at .208. He has 5 for 24 for his work in the series. One of those hits was a triple. And a very costly triple as far as Detroit was concerned, because it helped them lose the first game of the series. Now Newhouser pitches and Nicholson swings viciously and fouls it way back onto the screen for strike 1. And I can't help but wonder what goes through Red Ruffing's head as he watches the American Leaguers perform here this afternoon at Wrigley Field in Chicago. Red told me last night that he certainly would like to be pitching down there just any day in this series. Newhouser is throwing, though, for Detroit. He snaps a curve, and it's low to Nicholson for ball one. 1-1 is the count to Bill Nicholson. First man up for Chicago in the second inning. Newhouser throws a curve that Nicholson swings on, and there's a high foul ball going over near the Detroit dugout. Richards, the catcher, is over, and he takes it for the out. That's all for Nicholson. Fouling up and out to catcher Richards of Detroit. The batter now is Mickey Livingston.
Mickey Livingston, catcher.
Mickey missed just one of the ball games, so he's playing his sixth game of the World Series. He's had 7 hits for 18 at-bats, and he is the number 2 hitter of all batsmen. He's going along hitting at .389. He's a right-hand hitter standing deep at the plate. Takes a look at the first pitch, and it costs him. Newhouser had that one right in. No balls, 1 strike. Young Detroit southpaw delivers, and Livingston hits one down to third. Outlaw picks it up on a big hop, fires it over to Rudy York, and that's all for Livingston. Going out from third to first. Now Roy Hughes, the shortstop, is coming up. There are 2 outs here in the last of the second inning. The score stands Tigers 6, and the Chicago Cubs 1. This is the 7th and final game of the 1945 World Series. Hughes hitting right-handed, batting at .286. Newhouser tries a curve on him, and it's good. Just above the knees on the outside corner for strike 1. Hughes bends over slightly from the waist. Newhouser pours a change of pace in there that's just outside. And that's ball 1. 1 ball, 1 strike. Newhouser throws again. This time Hughes swings on it and fouls it up into the second tier behind first base. Down in the bullpen for the Chicago Cubs, tall, blonde right-hander Paul Erickson is starting to get ready, which leads us to believe that if Hughes gets on, Vandenberg may not hit. Newhouser delivers to the plate now, and Hughes takes it, and it's a nice called strike. That's the third one. Newhouser really had it in there. Let's see, as far as strikeouts are concerned, that's the second one for Hal. So at the end of 2 innings of play, with nothing across here for Chicago in a second, it is the Tigers 6 and the Cubs 1. Well, you know, each day since the opening of this World Series, we have been explaining how these games are being broadcast to our servicemen and women overseas. How through the far-flung network of the Armed Forces Radio, our play-by-play descriptions are being shortwaved from San Francisco to Japan and China, Alaska, South America, to the Philippines and to our Navy ships throughout the Pacific. From New York, they are beamed over the Atlantic to England, France, Germany, Italy, and to the Far East. We are happy to say that the Armed Forces Radio Service are receiving wires from all over the world telling them what the reception of the game so far has been excellent, and that the men are getting a real thrill out of listening in. As one Detroiter said to a correspondent in Tokyo, this is the next thing to being out there in the bleachers. If we only had some hot dogs. Yes, our bleachers this year extended clear out to Tokyo on one side and over to Berlin and Vienna on the other side. To all you men and women out there, we send our greetings and our sincere hope that you'll be back here with us when the World Series rolls around next year. Well, the third inning has rolled around here at Wrigley Field in Chicago. It's a 6-1 ball game in favor of the Detroit Tigers as we start the first half of inning number 3 with Paul Richards, the Detroit catcher, up at bat. Richards doubled back in the first inning to knock in 3 runs for the ball club, so he probably feels very fine about it as Hy Vandenberg makes the first pitch. And it's a fast called strike. Livingston sets out the sign. Vandenberg takes it, throws that pitch. It's a curveball of medium speed variety, low for ball 1. 1-1 is the count on Paul Richards. He's had 1 hit in 1 try. Vandenberg tries another curve, and Richards takes it, and it's a sweeping curve that bites over the outside corner for a called strike. So that makes the count 1-2 on the Detroit catcher. Vandenberg pumping nervously. Now throws a curveball. It's in there for called strike 3. And that's all for Richards. He took it with his bat on his shoulder. That's the first strikeout against Detroit this afternoon, and Hy Vandenberg, the third of the Chicago pitchers, hangs it up. The batter coming up now is Hal Newhouser. Hal came up in the first inning and grounded down to the right side, and Johnson, the second baseman of the Cubs, threw him out. Hal hitting left-handed. Stands very deep at the plate. Vandenberg curves him and misses with it just outside and low for ball one. Newhouser has 0 for 5 as a batsman in the series, so he has no batting percentage. He swings on the next pitch. It's a change of pace curve, hit down to the right side. Johnson at second picks it up on the right side of the diamond and flips it into Cavaretta, and that's all for Newhouser, going out from second to first, just as he did in the first inning. So that's the second out now for Detroit, here in the first half of inning number 3. Skeeter Webb is coming to the plate now. He's had 1 hit and 2 tries. He got a single to right back in the first inning, if you recall. Vandenberg tries a 3/4 overhand curve on him, and it's outside for ball one. Webb standing forward at the plate this time. It's as close to the pitcher as he can. He swings on the next pitch and beats it down foul to the left of the plate, and it rolls back toward the Chicago dugout. So the count now on Skeeter Webb is 1 ball, 1 strike. 2 outs, top of the third inning, and the score stands at 6-1 in favor of Detroit over Chicago. Vandenberg's ready, now hustles his pitch down there, and Skeeter Webb swings on a wide curve and doesn't get it. That's strike 2. He really reached for it, too. He wanted to hit that one. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Webb's always nervous with that bat at the plate. He pumps it back and forth. Now he swings on this next pitch, hits a slow roller to shortstop. Hughes comes in nicely, picks it up, throws it to Cavaretta in time by a stride. And that is all for Webb, going out from short to first. So in the third inning for Detroit, no runs, no hits, no errors, and nobody left. And the score, Detroit 6 and Chicago 1. Red Ruffing, stalwart Yankee pitcher, speaking from this booth last inning, told you about the slick, easy shaves he gets with today's Gillette Blue Blade. Now, there are millions of shavers just as enthusiastic as Red Ruffing about this finest of razor blades. In fact, the Gillette Blue Blade is #1 in preference the world over because it's #1 in sharpness. Yes, today's Gillette Blue Blade has the sharpest edges ever honed. So sharp, so smoothly finished, so easy shaving, that tough beard's no problem at all. It's mighty easy to check, old Al. Just ask for Gillette Blue Blades and see how quick and how easy and how smooth and refreshing shaving can be. Man, what shaves you get. Remember, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. We pause now 10 seconds for station identification. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
This is WGN Chicago, serving the Middle West.
Ty Vandenberg is to be the first hitter for Chicago here in the last of the third inning. Vandenberg's coming up to the plate right now. Matter of fact, he has no hits and no at-bats here in the series. He takes the first pitch high for ball one. So this is his first official at-bat in the 1945 series. Newhouser comes down with the next delivery, and Vandenberg swings and doesn't get it. He's spun all the way around. So the count on Vandenberg now is 1 ball, 1 strike. First Cub up in the third inning. Al Newhouser working very well for Detroit. Delivers. Vandenberg swings, hits a high fly ball out into right field. Up under it is Cullenbine, and he's got it for the out. That's all for Vandenberg. A fly ball to right field to Roy Cullenbine. That brings up the second hitter. And starting the second batting around for Chicago is Stanley Hack. He was struck out in the first inning. He's had 11 hits and 26 at-bats here in this 1945 series. Newhouser works. Hack takes, and there's a low curve on the outside for ball one. If Stanley Hack can get himself another base hit in this World Series, he will tie Eddie Rice of Washington and Pepper Martin of the St. Louis Cardinals for 12 hits in a single series. Vandenberg tries, or rather, Newhouser tries a curve, and it's outside to Hack for ball two. 2 balls, no strikes. We're in the last half of the third inning. The score 6-1 in favor of Detroit, and 1 out for Chicago. No base runners, and Stanley Hack is up there for his second at-bat. Newhouser's kind of stingy with the Cubs. He's given them only 2 hits. He throws a curve in there now, and Hack walks up on it and then takes it, and it's nicely in for a strike. Now his count is 2 balls, 1 strike. Newhouser comes down with a fast one. It's in there for called strike two, just above the hack knees and on the outside corner. Now the count on the Chicago third baseman is 2 balls, 2 strikes. Hack watches Newhouser get ready, then swings on his offering and hits a ball down to third. Outlaw comes up with it behind third, throws to first, and that's all for Hack. Hack going out, from third to first, being thrown out by his opposing third baseman, Jimmy Outlaw. So that's the second out here in the last half of inning number 3. The batter now is Johnson. Johnson got one of the 2 hits given up so far by Newhouser when he doubled into left center field back in the first inning. Newhouser throws a medium-speed curveball in there that's swung on by Johnson and fouled off to the right of the plate. Strike one. Now Newhouser with the new ball is ready. Newhouser fogs a fastman in there. It's hit back past the mound, back at second. Skeeter Webb rides behind second, makes the pickup and the throw to first nicely for the out. And that's all for Johnson. Going out from short to first, being thrown out by Skeeter Webb. So there's nothing across for the Cubs here in the last half of the third inning. No runs, no hits, no errors, and nobody left. The score at the end of 3 innings of play in the 7th game of the 1945 World Series is Detroit 6 and Chicago 1. As a matter of fact, Detroit has 6 runs on a total of 5 hits. They have committed 1 error. While for the Chicago Cubs, they have 1 run on a total of 2 hits off Newhouser, and they have committed no errors. So we're headed for the top of the 4th inning here at Wrigley Field in Chicago. And Hy Vandenberg, the third of the Chicago pitchers, has taken the mound, and he'll throw first of all in the 4th inning to Eddie Mayo. Eddie Mayo will be followed by Doc Kramer and then by left fielder Hank Greenberg. Mayo has been up twice in this ball game and has had 1 hit in 2 attempts. Back in the first inning, he got a single to right field. In the second inning, Mayo flied to center. Kramer hasn't been stopped so far today. He's had 2 hits, a single to left and a single to right in his 2 at-bats. And then Hank Greenberg sacrificed successfully in the first and was walked in the second. So Greenberg hasn't been up there really officially. Now Mayo steps in, hitting left-handed, opens his stance slightly toward first base. Vandenberg, elbow-and right-hander, delivers, and there's a fastball swung on and beaten down into the ground foul. Rolls back toward the Detroit dugout. And of course, that's strike 1 on Eddie Mayo. This is the 9th 7-game series to be played, and 6 of 8 have been won by the National League. Vandenberg tries a low curve this time, change of pace variety, and it's ball 1. 1 ball, 1 strike to count on Eddie Mayo. Vandenberg comes right back with a 1-1 offering, and it's a curveball that hangs outside for ball 2. 2-1. That's the count on Eddie Mayo, the first Tiger up, 4th inning. A fastball is swung on by Mayo and missed completely for strike 1. Rather strike 2. 2 balls, 2 strikes. That was the first one he swung at in that manner. 2 balls, 2 strikes is the count on Eddie Mayo, the first man up for Detroit here in the 4th inning. Vandenberg delivers 2-2. There's an easy curve. It's in there for called strike 3. That's all for Mayo. That for Vandenberg is strikeout number 2. He's the only Chicago Cub pitcher that's been able to do any business in that strikeout department with Detroit this afternoon. Now the batter is Doc Kramer. He's had 2 hits and 2 tries. Left-handed batter. Takes the first pitch and it crosses him. He's right in there, just under the lettering of the shirt, right through the middle. Vandenberg rolls back, comes down with a change of pace curve. It's reached for, and there's a high pop-up back at shortstop. Hughes goes back about 15 feet on the grass in left field and grabs it for the out. That's all for Kramer, so he's been stopped now. That's the second out, the top of the 4th inning. That brings up Hank Greenberg for his first official at-bat. His pregame batting percentage of .333 is still riding. Look at that outfield move back when Greenberg digs in. Lowry moves back in left. Pafko moves over into left center and moves way back. Vandenberg tries a curve on him. Greenberg takes it high for ball 1. Nicholson is over almost into right center field. Big hole in right field down near the line. Vandenberg throws and Greenberg takes. There's an inside curve just off the short ribs for ball 2. 2 balls, no strikes. Vandenberg blows on the fingers of his pitching hand. Now grips that ball. Steps up, delivers. Low for ball 3. Well, the count on Greenberg now is 3 balls, no strikes. He looks around at third base at Steve O'Neill to see whether or not he's going to be allowed to go for this 3-0 pitch. Vandenberg makes it, but it's taken. It's in for a strike. 3-1. Greenberg waves that War Club back and forth. Takes this next pitch, and it's under his knees and on the inside for ball 4. So Greenberg is walked with 2 away here in the 4th inning. That's the first walk given up by Vandenberg. That's walk number 6 that has been given to the Detroit Tigers. Now the fellow that has been receiving most of the walks is Roy Cullenbine. He's been the recipient of 2 of them, and he's up there now. Vandenberg starts to work on Cullenbine and misses with a low fast one on the inside for ball 1. 1 ball, no strikes. Greenberg steps off at first. 2 away here in the top of the 4th. Cullenbine reaches for a curveball and beats it down into the ground foul. So the count now on Cullenbine is 1-1. 1 ball, 1 strike. Roy hitting left-handed against the right-handed offerings of Vandenberg. Greenberg steps off at first. Vandenberg's pitch to the plate is swung on. There's a long line drive foul out back of right field. Cullenbine also broke his bat on that one. Fell away from an inside hook and tried to pull it into right, but pulled it too much. Well, the count is 1-2 on Cullenbine. 1 ball, 2 strikes. And a little time has been called here now to allow Cullenbine to walk over to the Tiger dugout, select his favorite piece of lumber. Comes trudging back up to the plate with that Louisville slugger he carries over his shoulder. Gets in there now. The count is 1 ball, 2 strikes on Roy Cullenbine. 2 outs in the top of the 4th, and Hank Greenberg, who was walked, is on at first. Vandenberg delivers. There goes Greenberg. The ball is swung on and missed and dropped by Mickey Livingston, but he makes the peg down to first base in time, and it's a strikeout nevertheless. Cullenbine is out of there. So Vandenberg hangs up strikeout number 3, and here in the 4th inning, no runs, no hits, 1 man left, and there were no errors. So at the end of 3.5 innings of play, the score stands Tigers 6 and the Cubs 1. Well, we all like to watch a pitcher who can fog them through. Yes, speed's a great thing when it's combined with perfect control. Speed counts for plenty in shaving, too, when it's hooked up with real comfort. Now, that's the kind of shaving you get when you use Gillette Brushless Shaving Cream. Gillette Brushless removes moisture-resisting oil from your whiskers almost instantly. What's more, it blankets a barrel of water against them, giving every bristle a thorough soaking. Yes, Gillette Brushless softens stubble in jig time and stays wet on your face. Lubricates your blade and makes shaving lots quicker and easy. For extra shaving speed and comfort, ask your dealer for Gillette Brushless. If he's out of stock today because of wartime shortages, he'll have Gillette Brushless soon. Now for the last half of inning number 4. The score stands 6-1 in favor of the Tigers over the Cubs. And Peanuts Lowry is coming up for his second at-bat here in the 7th game. He's 0 for 1. He was a base runner in the first inning when Newhouser bobbled his attempted sacrifice. Now Hal out on the mound makes the pitch, and there's a nice hook in there for a strike. Little Lowry gets down, gets a double handful of dirt. Former GI waves that bat back and forth now. Newhouser cuts the pitch loose, and Lowry takes it high. That's ball 1. 1 ball, 1 strike. Newhouser works again. Lowry swings on it, and there's a fly ball going out into right center field. Going over for it is Doc Kramer. Cullenbine cuts in front of him and takes it for the out. So in right center field, it was Roy Cullenbine who streaked in front of Doc Kramer to make the put out. That's 1 away in the last of the 4th inning for the Chicago Cubs. Well, Phil Cavaretta has hit in the only run so far for Chicago today. And he's coming up now. Cabaretta had a single in the first inning to right field. The folks here are being asked to remove the blankets from the wall in deep center field. Now they've done so, and the ball game is going to go on. Newhouser throwing left-handed, of course, makes his first pitch, and it's a curveball that stays outside to a left-hand hitter, Phil Cabaretta, for ball one. Newhouser tries again, and Cabaretta laces this one out into center field. It's dropping in for a base hit. Doc Kramer picks it up on the third skip and fires it into Eddie Mayo, the second baseman. Cabaretta is on with a solid hit in the center. That's hit number 3 off Newhouser. And the batter is Andy Pafko, and the stands here at Chicago very suddenly come to life. Pafko hit into a double play back in the first inning. He'd like to atone for that right now. He swings on the first pitch and has a fly ball to center. Doc Kramer goes back into his right and misjudges it. The ball falls behind him. Here comes Cabaretta moving into third. Charlie Grimm is waving him on in. There comes a throw to the plate. Cabaretta slides. The ball gets away from Richards. The runner is safe, and Pafko's at third. Well, Doc Kramer out in deep center field misjudged a fly ball that was carried by the wind, and it winds up as a triple for Pafko to score Cabaretta all the way from first. And the throw that came into the plate was low and into the dirt, and Richards couldn't pick it up. Now here is Bill Nicholson. Newhouser delivers, and Nicholson swings and misses for strike one. That was hit number 4 and run number 2 off Newhouser. It's now a 6-2 ball game. Hal delivers, and Nicholson at the plate takes low and on the outside for ball one. 1 ball, 1 strike. That's the count on Nicholson. He fouled up and out in the second inning to Richards. So he's 0 for 1 for this game. Newhouser delivers a fast curve under the knees of Nicholson for ball 2. 2 balls, 1 strike. There's 1 out for Chicago here in the 4th. They're trying to get back into this ball game as the score stands Detroit 6 and Chicago 2. Pafko leads down off third. Nicholson swings and hits the ball easily back to the mound. Newhouser drives the runner back into third, throws to first in time, and that's all for Nicholson. He topped the swing and rolled it back toward the mound. Nicholson thrown out by Newhouser. Pafko holding on at third base. The batter is Livingston now. Livingston came up in the second inning and was thrown out by third baseman Outlaw. Now Newhouser is ready to deliver to him. He checks Pafko at third, goes to the plate, and swung on, and missed for strike one. Livingston was going after a high inside curve. Mickey's a right-handed hitter. As we told you, he is the number 2 hitter in the series as far as batsmen are concerned. He's had 7 hits for 19 tries. Now Newhouser is ready. Delivers 0-1 to the plate. And there's a ball hit right back to the mound. Newhouser grabs it very quickly, throws it over to first, and that's all for Livingston. That's all for the Chicago Cubs here in the 4th inning. So, despite the triple, Newhouser got out of it rather easily and very inexpensively. 1 run, 2 hits, 1 man left, and there were no errors. So at the end of 4 full innings of play, the score stands 6 for the Tigers. Before we get into the top half of the 5th inning, I'd just like to remind you that for a rousing time, get your friends together Friday nights and enjoy a corking good scrap on Gillette's Cavalcade of Sports. Yes, for the major boxing event of the week, every week, the year round, tune in Gillette's Cavalcade of Sports Friday nights. Consult your newspaper for a local station and local time. Now for the first half of inning number 5. This is quite a knockdown, drag-out ball game with the Chicago Cubs and the Detroit Tigers fighting for the World's Championship here in the 7th game of the 1945 World Series at Wrigley Field in Chicago. The first man up for Detroit here in the fifth inning is going to be Rudy York. He twice has been up there, but just once officially. He came up in the first inning and popped up and out to third baseman Stan Hack. Then in the second inning, he was walked. So York is coming up actually for his second official at-bat. He's 0 for 1. No hits and one try. Out on the mound, Hy Vandenberg, pitching for the Chicago Cubs, has visited to Rosenbach, and he's ready to throw. Rudy York, big, powerful right-hand hitter, very thick set through the chest and shoulders. Watches the first pitch whistle in, and it's low for ball one. It's a 6-2 ball game in favor of the Tigers. Vandenberg twists and throws an overhand curve that's swung on and fouled off by York for strike one. 1 ball, 1 strike. That's the count on Rudy York. York looks down at O'Neill behind third. These ball players very carefully watch their manager because with each pitch, signs are changed. Vandenberg delivers 1-1. It's a medium-speed curveball. It's over for a strike. Now it's 1-2. 1 ball, 2 strikes. York waits. Vandenberg serves. York swings, and there's a bounding ball to third. Hack is up with it. There's a throw over to Cabaretta at first, and that is all for York. Bouncing out from third to first. Well, that's one away here in the top of the fifth inning. The batter coming up there now for Detroit is Jimmy Outlaw. He walked in the first, hit back to the mound and was thrown out by the pitcher in the second inning. So Outlaw has gone up there once officially and has failed to get a hit. Vandenberg throws a curve in there that Outlaw, the little right-handed hitter, swings on and fouls right back onto the screen for strike one. Outfield immediately when Outlaw comes up there. Walks in a couple of steps. Vandenberg now with 1 away in the fifth delivers, and Outlaw almost took a swing at that one, but pulled up in time to take it low for ball one. 1 ball and 1 strike is the count on third baseman Jimmy Outlaw of the Detroit Tigers. Vandenberg, big right-hander, throws, and it's swung on and hit just over the outstretched fingertips of Hughes and out into left field for a base hit. So Outlaw singles right over shortstop, out into left. That's hit number 6 as far as Detroit is concerned, and now they have an equal number of runs and hits. The batter is Paul Richards. Richards doubled in the first inning, struck out in the third. Now he takes a curveball. It's good for a strike. No balls, 1 strike. That's the count on Richards. He turns around and is really talking to Passarella. He didn't like the call on that one a bit. In 5 1/3 innings, that was the first hit off Vandenberg. Down comes the next pitch. There goes the runner down to second base. The pitch to the plate is swung on for strike 2. The peg goes down to second. The flying spikes of Outlaw slides under the peg, and he's safe at second. So he'll get credit with a stolen base. Outlaw is credited with a steal at second. Richards swung to protect him, and of course that's strike 2 on Paul. But the Tigers have another base runner in scoring position. There's 1 away here in the top of the fifth inning. Vandenberg is ready now. Delivers. Richards takes a curveball. It snaps off outside for ball 1. 1 ball, 2 strikes. That Outlaw was really digging that time. He stole second. Those little short legs of his pumping and chopping up and down. He covers a lot of ground. Vandenberg delivers to the plate, and Richards takes a low curve on the inside for ball 2. Now it's a count of 2 balls, 2 strikes on Paul Richards. 1 out for Detroit in the top of the fifth inning. Outlaw singled and stole second, and he's now on at the Keystone. With his hands on his hips right now as he takes a short lead. Looks around behind him to make sure no one's sneaking in behind him to pick him off. Now Vandenberg is ready. Delivers 2-2. Richards leans forward toward it and then jerks himself back and takes ball 3. 3 balls, 2 strikes. That's the count on Paul Richards, the Detroit catcher. Vandenberg ready with the 3-2 delivery. Checks Outlaw at second. Now throws Platewood. Richards swings on it. There's a high foul ball way back into the second tier behind first base. So the count stays at 3-2. The score, in case you just tuned in, Detroit 6 and Chicago 2. We're in the top half of the fifth inning. One out, Outlaw at second. Richards at the plate, count of 3-2, and he swings on the next pitch. Hits it down to Stanley Hack. The runner is driven back into second. Hack's throw across the diamond is in time, and that's all for Richards. Going out from third to first. Outlaw holding right on at second. The batter now is Hal Newhouser. Up until now, Hal Newhouser has pitched himself a pretty sharp game. He's been looking sharp down there. It's left-handed. However, as a batsman, he's gone 0 for 2. He swings on the first one, a big jug-handled curve. Missed it for a strike. No balls, 1 strike is the count on Hal Newhouser. 2 outs. Outlaw still on at second. Vandenberg delivers. Newhouser swings on the next pitch, and there's a fly ball hit out into left field. Lowry has to hurry. He does and makes the catch. Lowry had to come up in a big hurry and over toward the line in left field, but he was right there. Made the catch, so there are no runs. 1 hit and a man left, and there were no errors. So at the end of 4.5 innings of play, the score stands the Tigers 6 and the Cubs 2. Folks, peace has plenty of blessings. Among them is the thrill we all get at seeing the good things we've missed during the war reappear. So when I tell you that the famous easy-shaving Gillette Tech razor is coming back on dealers' counters all over the country, I can just hear a lot of you fellas say, hot dog. Now, most stores have the Gillette Tech in stock right now, and you'll probably find one where you trade. So be on the lookout for the Gillette Tech razor you and plenty of other men have been waiting for. It's on the way with all-metal gold-plated head, plus 5 super keen Gillette blue blades at the popular pre-war price of only 49 cents. What shaves you get, how quick and how easy, how smooth and how refreshing. Yes, happy shaves are here again. Ask your dealer for your Gillette Tech razor with 5 perfect shaving Gillette blue blades at 49 cents. And now for the last portion of the 7th game of the 1945 World Series, to close up shop, put it in the books, is a guy that can do it. Bill Slater. You ready, Bill?
Thank you, Al. Yep. Roy Hughes is the first batter up for the Cubs here in the last of the 5th. Whispering Roy struck out his first time up. 24-year-old Hal Newhouser gets ready to pitch to Hughes. Here it comes. Hughes backs away from it. It's an inside pitch for ball 1. Jolly Charlie Grimm, with his team trailing by 4 runs, is cutting up capers galore down in that third base coaching box. He wants Hughes to hit and get on. Hughes swings, foul tips it. Strike 1. 1 ball, 1 strike. Don't go away, you all. This game isn't over yet. 6-2, the Tigers are out in front, and Hal Newhouser, the best of their pitchers, is looking mighty keen. Just the same, these Cubs are fighting back. Newhouser works. It's good. The curveball gets the inside corner, and Hughes is sore about it. He throws his bat down and walks away from the plate, and Charlie Grimm comes walking in from third, and he's not happy now. It was a curveball. Nipped the inside corner. Now Hughes and Passarella have got themselves a bit of a rondelay on down there. Hughes is sticking his chin out at Passarella. Passarella's talking right back to him, too. That Passarella was a military policeman in the Army. Now Hughes picks his bat up again, and meanwhile, out on the mound, Hal Newhouser is flailing his arms around like a windmill, trying to keep warm. It's a cool day. Here they are, ready to go again. Here's the pitch to Hughes. It's inside. Ball 2. 2 balls, 2 strikes. And a derisive roar from the crowd, who disagreed with the call on that last one. 2-2 now on Roy Hughes. Newhouser's ready. Here it is. Hughes takes it, and it is called strike 3. And Hughes is sore again. But he's out of there. That's the second time that Roy Hughes has struck out in this ball game, and for Newhouser, that is strikeout number 3. 2 of them he's collected off of Hughes. Now here's a pinch hitter coming up in place of Hy Vandenberg. It's Eddie Sauer. Sauer stepping up there, right-handed hitter. This is Sauer's second time up as a pinch hitter in the ball game, and Newhouser promptly greets him with a fast call strike, a curveball that whipped in and over. Sauer's an outfielder by trade, and he hails from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a right-handed batter. 1 strike on him. Newhouser works down low into the dirt, scooped up by Richards. The crowd whooping a bit. They're giving Passarella a bit of a razzaloo. 1-1 on Sauer. That pitch is high for ball 2. S-A-U-E-R. Eddie Sauer. Newhouser, who has a commanding lead in this ball game, is taking plenty of time on every pitch. He's never pitched a more important battle than this in his life. Sauer swings on that one, fouls it into the big netting here behind the catcher. 2 balls, 2 strikes on Sauer. The next pitcher will either be Passau or Erickson, I believe. They both seem to be working out down there in the bullpen for the Cubs. Now a new ball put in play. Newhouser has it rubbed up. Here's the pitch. It's a little too high. Makes it ball 3 for a full count on Sauer, the pinch hitter. There have been more pinch hitters used in this series, as you know, than any other series in all baseball history. Here it is. Sauer swings, strikes out. Strikeout number 4 for Newhouser. 2 out for Chicago in the last half of the 5th. And now the leadoff hitter, Stanley Hack, comes up to start the 3rd batting around for the Cubs. And Stanley has been turned back his 2 previous appearances at the plate by Hal Newhouser. Hal works. Hack takes a fast call strike. Newhouser seems to be getting sharper and sharper as this game wears along. Here it comes. Hack swings on it. There's a ground ball to shortstop. Skeeter Webb scoops it out of the dirt. The throw to first is just in time. Hack is out by half a stride. So in the last of the 5th inning, there's nothing across for the Chicago Cubs. And the score at the end of 5 full innings of play is Detroit 6 and Chicago 2. And I believe it's big blonde Paul Erickson who's coming in to be the next pitcher for the Cubs. We'll wait till he's officially announced. He's taking the stride in, though, from out there in left field where the bullpen is located. And while Erickson is coming to the mound to complete his warm-up pitches and to appear as the 4th pitcher this afternoon for the Chicago Cubs, let's pause here 10 seconds for station identification. Remember, men, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
This is WGN Chicago, serving the Middle West.
Well, Charlie Grimm, as you can see, is using every bit of ammunition he has in his whole arsenal to try to pull this game out of the fire. This is the 4th pitcher, we've told you, who came out there. As you know, but to remind you of the late tuner in you are, Hank Baroli started the ball game, and they collected 3 hits in a row off of him, and that was all for him. Then big Paul Derringer came in. He was relieved by Vandenberg in the 2nd inning. Vandenberg pitched mighty classy ball. He gave up only 1 hit. The only hit he's given up in the series. And now Vandenberg was lifted in the last half of the 5th inning for a pinch hitter. And so we have blonde Paul Erickson, a big right-hander. So far in this series, Erickson has appeared in 3 games. This is the 4th game he's come in as a pinch pitcher. He has pitched 5 innings and given up 6 hits. Erickson hails from Zion, Illinois. Stands 6'2", and he weighs 200 pounds, and he's a big, impressive figure out there on the mound. Getting ready to pitch now to Jimmy Webb, the right-handed hitting shortstop. And he feeds him a called strike. That was a fastball that clipped the inside corner waist high. Webb is starting the fourth batting around for the Tigers. Erickson works sidearm, and Webb fouls it off for strike two. No balls, 2 strikes on Jimmy Skeeter Webb. The Skeeter's got his 3-year-old little daughter, Carol Ann, here. She's a nice-looking kid. 2 strikes on Carol Ann's papa. Swings on that one. There's a fly ball going into center field. In comes Papko. He's under it now and takes it for the out and falls to one knee after he does so, but I don't think he's hurt. Nope. So Webb is out of there. Andy Papko in center field's okay. That's one away for Detroit now in the top of the 6th inning. And this is a tense battle, and you can tell by the fact that you don't get too much noise in the background except when there's a Cub rally on that these Chicago fans are pulling for their team. Now here's Eddie Mayo stepping up, batting left-handed. Takes a called strike. Erickson was very fast with the curveball just above the knees on the outside corner. Mayo bats left-handed. He's 1 for 3 in this game. Backs away from an inside pitch that's low by the shins. Ball 1. 1 ball, 1 strike. Mayo usually parks his chewing gum on that button on the top of his cap, but I haven't seen him doing it in the World Series. It was a little bit too serious to be parking gum on your cap. 1-1 on Mayo. Erickson pitches sidearm. It's too high. Ball 2. Al was taking a look at Mayo through his glasses, and just to keep all the reporting straight, the gum's up there. Odd Spotkins. I bet it freezes. 2 balls, 1 strike on Mayo as Erickson takes plenty of time for this next pitch. Now the big guy winds up, delivers. Mayo swings on it. There's a fly ball going into left field. Off to his left is Lowry, and on the run he makes a good catch. That was a pretty deep hit ball. Peanuts Lowry, starting with the crack of the bat, was running back and to his left. And back almost by that vine-covered wall out there, he made the catch. Mayo is out, and that's 2 out for Detroit now in the top of the 6th inning. And here's Doc Kramer, who's been pretty sensational today. He's gone 2 for 3. He now has 10 hits, and that's more than any other Tiger. Swings on one, slaps it down the left field line's foul. Goes over into the stands. 1,001 people stand up and reach their fingers up to try to catch that. Didn't get a broken finger that way. 1 strike on Doc Kramer from Manahawkin, New Jersey. The fox hunter. Swings on that one, slaps it out in center field. There's another hit for him. The ball rolls out to Papko in center field, and he throws it back into second. And Kramer is on with his 3rd hit of the afternoon. That, of course, is the first hit off Erickson. And the batter coming up is Greenberg. And there's a stir in the stands as Big Hank advances to the plate. Hank has been walked twice today, and he's been walked 6 times in the series. His first time up this afternoon, he sacrificed successfully. So Big Hank, the long ball hitter who has slugged out 2 home runs and 3 doubles, steps up there. And he gets a called strike. Erickson was sharp with a fast curve just below the shoulders to Mr. Greenberg. Hank's got one of his wrists taped up today. Here it is. Greenberg takes it outside. 1 ball, 1 strike. And Peanuts Lowry has gone so deep out in the left field that you can barely see the little fella. He's backed up there. It was over his head that Hank Greenberg slugged that one yesterday. Here it comes. Greenberg takes another called strike. And Hank, who's usually pretty genial, looks a little bit irritated at that. 2 strikes on him. The outfield plays Greenberg so that there's a big hole between center field and right field. They pull him around to the left. He's a right-handed slugger and a pull hitter. Kramer leads off first, 2 out. There's a throw to first. Kramer hops back on. For all of his 39 years, Doc Kramer says he's going to continue to play baseball till somebody beats him out of there. That's the spirit. Greenberg fouls that one off. Lands in the big fishing net here behind the catcher. Count is still 1 ball, 2 strikes. On Henry Greenberg. I think that's the first time in this series he's been called Henry. Erickson works. There's Kramer breaking for second. The pitch is outside. Livingston has a hard time holding it, and Kramer goes on down to second unmolested, and it's a stolen base for him. That's the 3rd stolen base for the Tigers in this series, and the 2nd one today. Hellenbein, Outlaw, and Kramer have now all pilfered a bag. The Cubs, on the other hand, have 2 stolen bases. Johnson and Pafko snitched them. Alan Greenberg is 2 balls, 2 strikes. Now big Paul Erickson in that spanking white uniform of his stretches. Delivers to Greenberg, who strikes out.
Boy, you could get elected mayor of Chicago by striking out Greenberg today. That's all for the Tigers in the top of the 6th. No runs, a hit, a man left on, and there were no errors. So as we head to the last of the 6th, the score is Detroit 6, Chicago 2. Fans, doesn't it stand to reason that Gillette, of all folks, has the resources, experience, and skill to produce the kind of shaving cream that you want, the kind that softens your beard thoroughly and makes shaving more comfortable? Well, take it from yours truly, that's just what Gillette Lather Shaving Cream does. It makes a rich, moisture-laden lather that holds a barrel of water and releases it freely, soaking every bristle and keeping your whiskers soft all the while you shave. Your razor glides like a feather. You get shaves that are shaved. Men, Gillette Lather Shaving Cream stays wet on your face and keeps your whiskers properly conditioned while you shave. Moreover, it's kind to your skin, and it has a fleeting fragrance that men prefer. You get cleaner, smoother, better-looking shaves, and you save money, too, when you use Gillette Lather Shaving Cream, a quarter. The last half of the 6th inning, and Chicago, trailing by 4 runs, finds that the chances are running out. The sands of time are working against them. And they have, in the regulation distance, 4 more times at bat to salvage this ball game. Else the Tigers march out of Wrigley Field world's champions for 1945. Now Newhouser is flailing that arm around of his. And here's Johnson up, a right-handed hitter who is 1 for 2. And there's a call strike, a beautiful curve by Newhouser. Ooh, that fella has stuff. 1 strike on Don Johnson. Johnson doubled in the 1st inning. Swings on that one, fouls it off. 2 strikes. It lands on the net behind the catcher, Paul Richards. Richards comes from Waxahachie. He tells me that's the way to pronounce it down in Texas. We've been calling it Waxahachie, and we apologize now to every citizen of Waxahachie. 2 strikes on Johnson. Now Richards of Waxahachie gives the signal to Newhouser. He's ready to go. Johnson swings, strikes out. That is strikeout number 5 for Newhouser. Newhouser struck out 1 in the 1st inning, 1 in the 2nd, none in the 3rd, none in the 4th, 2 in the 5th, and now 1 in the 6th. The batter now is Peanuts Lowry, a right-handed hitter who is 0 for 2 today. Peanuts crouches, swings, slaps it out into left field. It's a single. Greenberg coming up to field it, bobbles it for a minute. But Lowry, after taking a sharp turn at first, goes back to first. It's a single for Peanuts, and it is hit number 5 off Newhouser. And Cabaretta, who's had a hit every time this afternoon, steps up to the plate. Phil now has 10 hits in this series out of 24 times up. He's had 2 doubles and a homer. The pitch to him is low and outside. Ball 1. Newhouser will be pitching with extreme care to Phil Cabaretta, the star first baseman and the National League's batting champion. Lowry leads off first. Here's the pitch. High and outside. The curve that broke away. Ball 2 on Cabaretta. You could hear the ascending roar of the fans here in Wrigley Field as again the Cubs start a threat. That's a called strike. 3/4 speed curveball that hooked over there for Newhouser. Cabaretta took it. 2-1. Outfield is straight away but deep on Cabaretta. He swings on a low breaking curve and misses it. That's that low outside curve that Cabaretta swung on 3 or 4 times I can think of in the series. Now Newhouser watches Lowry at first, delivers to the plate. Cabaretta takes it. Ball 3. Now it's a full count. 3-2. And Grimm, coaching at third, bends over, puts his hands on his knees, and he's not jolly now. He's stern and tense. Newhouser stretches. Here's the 3-2 pitch. It's swung on. There's a fly ball popped into center field. In comes Kramer. He comes up to it and catches it. And Lowry's going to have to hurry to get back to first, but does so. Cabaretta's out on a fly to short center field that Doc Kramer had to come rustling in to get. Lowry remains at first. There are 2 out. And here's Andy Papko, who has hit the extremes in his batting today. The first time up, he hit into a double play. The last time, back in inning number 4, he got a triple to center field. He's a right-handed hitter, is Andy. He's one of the 6 Papko brothers from up Wisconsin way. Newhouser pitches him. It's good. Fast curve midway between the waist and knees. Andy took it. 1 strike. There's strike 2. That was a fast curve on the inside corner. Papko crowds the plate just a little. He wasn't sure of that one. 2 strikes. Papko's had 6 hits. 26 times up in this series. That one's low into the dirt. Ball 1. 1 ball, 2 strikes. 2 out, a runner at first. Harold Newhouser stretches, delivers, and he strikes out. So, Papko is out of there, and that's strikeout number 6 for Newhouser. He struck out 2 of them this inning, and he struck out 2 in inning number 5. So in the last half of the 6th inning, no runs for Chicago, 1 hit, 1 base runner left on, and there are no errors. So the score at the end of 6 full innings of play is Detroit 6 and Chicago 2. That makes for Mr. Newhouser in the series 8, and now we move into inning number 7. And as we've said, the issue is becoming sharper and sharper with each advancing inning. And now there are only 3 innings left. The Tigers are out in front 6-2. And on the mound, Erickson is completing his warm-up pitches. Behind the plate is Mickey Livingston, the fiery guy from South Carolina. And at first is Cabaretta, and at second is Johnson, and at shortstop is Roy Hughes, Whispering Roy. And at third is the great Stan Hack. And in left field's Little Peanuts Lowry, and in center field there's Andy Papko. And out in right field is Bad Bill Nicholson. And those are the Cubs in the field, and they're behind now. And Detroit threatens to take the series from them, as they did 10 years ago. Now the first Detroit batter in inning number 7 is Roy Cullenbine. He has been walked 7 times in this series, and he's struck out twice. Today he's been walked twice and struck out once. That was his last time up. Pitch to him is low and outside by Paul Erickson, ball 1. Cullenbine, big and husky, can hit from either side of the plate, batting left-handed, of course, against right-handed pitching. Erickson works. It's outside. There's a sidearm delivery that didn't quite do what Paul wanted it to. The pitch, good. Cullenbine started for it, checked his swing, and it was in just above the knees. 2 balls, 1 strike now. Cullenbine, a citizen of Detroit. Quite a bowler up there, as a matter of fact. A lot of ball players like to bowl. Here's the pitch. It's inside. Ball 3. 3 balls, 1 strike now on the first batter for Detroit in the top of the 7th. Erickson looked a little disconsolate after the call on that last one. There's no activity in the Cub bullpen right now. That's a called strike on Cullenbine, who had turned as if to start down to first. Cullenbine has been walked more than anybody in the series. He's had 7 Annie Oakleys. Now the count on him is 3-2, and the string she runs out. Erickson's working. It's high, and Cullenbine is walked again. That gives him 8 walks in the series. Now don't get record-minded on that, because the record number of walks garnered by any batter in the World Series is 11. Cullenbine's 3 away from that. And, of course, that was Ruth back in 26 in a 7-game series between the Yanks and the Cards. The Babe was walked 11 times. Now the batter is Rudy York. Erickson pitches him high and inside for ball 1. Cullenbine is at first. This is York's 3rd official time up today. He hasn't hit yet. He was walked once. York in the series has been walked 3 times. Struck out 3 times, too, incidentally. Swings, misses it. Foul tipped it. went kerwhopping into the chest protector of the umpire. 1 ball, 1 strike. Center fielder moves a little to his right, to our left on York. And Nicholson pulls over to the left, too, the right fielder. Pretty good piece of territory between Nicholson and the right field line. York swings, misses. Strike 2. Rudy didn't swing with his full power on that. And now there is activity in the Cub bullpen. It's Ray Prim out there, numbering up that left arm of his. 1-2 is Erickson's count on York. The pitch. Strike 3. Paul. That's the second strikeout for Paul Erickson. Cullenbine is still at first. 1 out for Detroit in the top of the 7th. If you just tuned in, score is 6-2 in favor of Detroit. Now here's little Jimmy Outlaw. He's had 1 hit out of 2 official times up. Right-handed batter. Swings on a foul ball as Cullenbine broke for second, and the ball goes down into the stands there, and Cullenbine will go back to first. That's a strike on Outlaw. Jimmy batted in a run back in inning number 1 by the simple process of being walked. He's batted in 3 runs in the series. He's had 5 hits out of 26 times up. Now Outlaw is ready to go again. Erickson pitches high. Ball 1. 1-1 on little Jimmy, who hails from down in Jackson, Alabama. He's very well liked there, and I may add, everywhere. He's a swell little guy. There's a throw over to first. Big Roy Cullenbine was not far off, and so he didn't have to do much by way of getting back. Erickson works. Cullenbine is breaking, and the ball is popped up into short center field. In comes Papco under it, and Cullenbine, halfway down to second, beats his way back to first. Papco took it on the run for the out on Outlaw. 2 out. Top of the 7th. The batter now is Paul Richards, right-handed hitter, who has a double out of 3 times up, and he has driven in 3 runs this afternoon and 5 in the series. And I had a wire from down in Atlanta, where he used to be the manager of the Crackers, and they said down there we affectionately call him Old Slug. So Old Slug swings and misses 1. That's a strike on Paul. He's from Waxahachie, Texas. A right-handed hitter. Swings, fouls it off, falls to the ground. Now he's up again. He was sort of trying to move himself out of the way of that pitch. His bat came swinging around, and the ball caromed off his bat, and he ended up on the ground. 2 strikes. Cullenbine, who was walked, is still at first, and there are 2 out. Erickson works down low into the dirt, neatly held up by Mickey Livingston. Steve O'Neill, coaching down at third, is looking down at the ground, kicking the dirt a little bit. And I imagine at this particular point, his heart is full of joy and nervousness. Here's the pitch to Richards. He swings on it, snaps out in center field. It's falling in for a hit. It's falling to the left of Papco. It's rolling to the wall out there. Here's Cullenbine rounding third. He's headed for the plate. Here comes the throw into second, and Richards lazily holds up at second with a run-producing double. That's the second double of the afternoon for Old Slug, Paul Richards, and it's his 4th run batted in today. And for Detroit, it is run number 7, and they lead the Cubs now by a score of 7-2. There's a round of applause for Newhouser as he comes up. That's left-handed, and Erickson pitches him inside for ball 1. Paul Richards takes a lazy lead off second there. Not lazy in that sense, he's just relaxed. Newhouser swings on one, slaps it out towards center field. Papco going to his right, takes it nicely on the run. That's all for Detroit in the top of the 7th. 1 run on 1 hit. There was 1 base runner left on. There were no Cub errors. And the score at the end of 6.5 innings of play is Detroit 7 and Chicago 2. Well, now just about everybody knows genial Irish Joe Cronin of the Boston Red Sox, one of the greatest shortstops of all time. Joe, who has spent more years as a player-manager than any other major leaguer, is with us here in the booth again this afternoon. Time ran short when you were on the air last Saturday, Joe, So let's pick up where we left off. You know, we say that the Gillette Razor and Gillette Blue Blade are the greatest shaving team on earth. What do you say, Joe?
I'm with you 100% on that, Bill. In my experience, no other combination compares with it for easy shaving.
Right you are, Joe. That's because the Gillette Razor and Gillette Blue Blade are made for each other and work together perfectly.
Well, they sure do a smooth job on my whiskers every time.
Well, that's putting it very straight, and thanks, Joe Cronin. Remember, men, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. And now it's the home half of the seventh inning. And still the Chicago fans are on their feet in the old baseball custom. Nicholson is going to be the first hitter for Chicago in the last of the seventh. And lefty Hal Newhouser, who in this series has won one and lost one, and is trying to pitch the Tigers into the World's Championship in 1945 and doing pretty handsomely right now, is on the mound. And this young 24-year-old, who's a Detroit product all the way, started his athletic career in Wilbur Wright High School up there. He's one of the great stars. Tiger history this year is about to pitch to Nicholson. He does so, and Nicholson takes it. It's outside. Ball one. Bill Nicholson hasn't had a hit today. Fouled out once to the catcher, and the next time hit back to Newhouser on the mound. Swings on this one. There's a high foul up, coming back into the stands. Lands on the screen and lazily rolls off. 1 ball, 1 strike on Big Bill Nicholson. Nicholson has driven in 7 runs so far in this series. That's more than anybody else. Newhouser lets it go. It's high, and Nicholson fouls it off, reaching for a high 3/4 speed curveball. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Nicholson's dark complexion, he has that menacing attitude at the plate that we've described to you so many times. Art Passarella, the plate umpire, moves out there and holds up the game for a second while some Tiger players in the bullpen down right field get off the field. Now Newhouser's ready to go, and here's the pitch. Nicholson swings on it. There's a bounding ball down to first. York has it. Tosses it underhand to Newhouser, who steps on first just ahead of Nicholson for the out. Nicholson is out 3-1. And that's another rather smoothly executed play at first base by Rudy York, whose defensive play in the series has attracted a great deal of comment, and deservedly so, too, because Rudy, not generally known as a great fielding first baseman, has been very, very sharp here in this 7-game 1945 series. Now the batter is Mickey Livingston. Former GI, bats right-handed. Newhouser delivers him, and it's swung on and slapped out into left field for a hit. Greenberg fields it on the second bounce out there, and there's his good throw into second. Livingston is on at first. That is the 8th hit in the series for Mickey Livingston, and his first one this afternoon. And Stubby Overmeyer is working in the bullpen for the Tigers now. The little short, stocky Michigan man. Mickey Livingston at first. The batter is Whispering Roy Hughes. Got a lot of friends down in Cincinnati, has Hughes. Pitch to him is low and outside. Al Benson is now up and tossing the ball around in the bullpen of the Tigers also. Livingston at first with 1 out. Hughes attempts to bunt one that rolls foul. He was really wanting to get one down that third base line on Jimmy Outlaw, who was playing fairly deep on this right-handed hitter, and beat it out, of course. Rod Passeau is throwing the ball in the bullpen of the Cubs. Both managers keeping men all warmed up. Any little old break one way or the other, they're going to make a move. Now the count on Hughes is 1 ball, 1 strike. Newhouser pitches him, and Hughes fouls it into the crowd down the right field line. 2 strikes. 1 ball, 2 strikes. This fellow Hughes started his baseball in the sandlots of Cincinnati, where he was born. Lives in California now, however. That pitch is low into the dirt. It gets away from Richards, and going down to second is Mickey Livingston. We'll get the scoring on that for just a second. In just a second, I have a hunch it was a wild pitch. It's a wild pitch. Ball was thrown into the dirt to the left of Richards, who tried to scoop it up. Then it bounced off his mask and rolled over toward the crowd here. While that was happening, Mickey Livingston was turning his way down to second. That's the first wild pitch that Hal Newhouser's made in the series. And one of the reasons why Hal Newhouser's production of wild pitches and his wildness has been cured, as it has been in the last couple of years, is that guy behind the plate, Richards. He was a cagey catcher at 37, and he's seen a lot of baseball. He's had a great deal to do with affecting the control that has made Newhouser the great left-handed pitcher of the last 2 years. Now the count on Hughes is 2-2. Now it's 3-2 because that pitch was very high. The pitcher, Erickson, is supposed to hit next, but I imagine we'll have a pinch hitter for him if Hughes can do some business. That pitch is low, into the dirt, bounces into Richards' glove. It's a walk for Hughes. I believe that's the first walk today given up by Newhouser. And here comes Frank Sicori up to be a pinch hitter. Sicori's coming up as a pinch hitter. This will be the 5th game in which Sicori has been used as a pinch hitter. And he has had 2 hits out of 4 times up. That gives him as a pinch hitter a .500 batting average, which is nothing to be sneezed at. And now there are Cub runners at first and second. There's only one out, and Sicori, a right-handed batter, is standing in there. There's a curve that comes in and over for a called strike. Sicori's a big athlete, with a great big number 49 on his back. He's an outfielder. He comes from Fort Huron in the state of Michigan. He was born in Iowa. Swings, fouls it off, strike 2. Newhouser in a bit of trouble here in the last half of the 7th. Is rubbing up the new ball very carefully himself. Newhouser looked very calm and cool at breakfast this morning in the hotel. Benton and Overmeyer still working in the bullpen for the Tigers. Now Sicori is ready to go again, and Newhouser has that ball rubbed up. He has 2 strikes on Sicori. Now he has 3 strikes on him, a called 3rd strike. That was a very, very clever curveball that Newhouser flipped in there on the 0-2 pitch, and he got Sicori, who was standing taking. That makes it 2 out. The batter is Hack. Smiling Stanley Camfield Hack, the Californian, who's been one of the stars of this series. That's left-handed. This is his 4th time up today, and he hasn't hit today, although he has 11 hits so far. The pitch is close to him and inside. Ball 1. Livingston at second with itchy feet. Hughes at first. His itch too. Pitch to Hack is high for ball 2. 2-0 the count. And regardless of how this series comes out, there's a great figure in baseball at that plate down there, Stan Hack. And out on that mound is a great young left-handed pitcher. He should have a magnificent career ahead of him, Harold Newhouser. Pitching here with very little rest today. There's a called strike that he whips in on Hack. Curveball just above the knees, nipped the outside corner to the left-handed batter. Now Mayo tries to sneak behind Livingston at second. The crowd warns him. Hack swings on that one. It goes to Outlaw down at third. He steps on third, forcing Livingston, retiring the side. Hack hits into a force out. He scored Livingston out at third to the third baseman, unassisted. So in the last half of the 7th inning, no runs for Chicago. 1 hit, 2 base runners left on. There were no Detroit errors. At the end of 7 full innings of play, the score is Detroit 7, Chicago 2. Now, when this crucial game ends this afternoon, stay tuned in for Bill Corum, famous columnist of the New York Journal-American Sports Staff. Here, a great reporter highlights today's baseball classic. Now, while we're waiting for the start of operations in the top of inning number 8, let's take a little pause here, 10 seconds, for station identification. Remember, men, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
This is WGN Chicago, serving Little Rock.
Now at the end of inning number 7, Al has our total scores here. Detroit, 7 runs, 8 hits, 1 error. Chicago, 2 runs, 6 hits, and no errors. And now coming into pitch for Chicago in the top of the 8th inning is Claude Passeau. Passeau has been, as you know, one of the great figures in this series. Pitching up in Detroit, one of the most perfect games ever hurled in a World Series. Passeau, appearing in his 3rd game, has pitched 15 2/3 innings. He's given up 6 hits. He has struck out 3, and he has walked 7. And he is credited with 1 victory and no defeats in this series. When he failed to come through down here, why, he was out, and the Cubs went ahead and won the ball game, so he was not credited with a defeat, or debited, rather, with a defeat. First batter he faces is Jimmy Webb, the right-handed hitting shortstop of Detroit. Passeau pitches to him low and inside. And Claude is working out there with a badly split fingernail on his left hand when he flagged down a hot line drive the other day, which is characteristic of Passeau. Webb fouls that one off. It's a high pop-up coming back into the stands. 1 ball, 1 strike. Now down in the bullpen for Chicago is Brooklyn's Bob Chipman, a lefty. 1-1 is the count that the sturdy tongue-nut farmer from Mississippi, Passeau, has on Webb. Now the count's 2-1 because that pitch by Passeau was too high. Ball 2. Passeau working, short windup. Webb taking, it's high, ball 3. 3-1. And of course, what's up to the Cubs now is to try to get these Tigers out of here just as rapidly as possible, then come back in the 2 innings of the regulation length that are left to Chicago, see what they can do about this 5-run deficit. Here's the pitch, high and inside, ball 4. Webb has walked. That's just the 2nd walk that Skeeter has gotten in the series. And for Passeau, that's the 8th man he's walked. Now the batter is Eddie Mayo. Mayo has 1 hit out of 4 times up today, and 6 for 27 in the series. Eddie twists his left leg away from an inside pitch for ball 1. Passeau, taking lots of time, takes a look at Webb, who's being held on at first by Cavaretta. Passeau delivers. Here it comes. Mayo swings on it, slaps it down the left field line. A high leap by Hack won't do. The ball is rolling to the corner. It's being chased by Lowry. Here comes Webb around 3rd, coming on in to score, and holding up at 2nd with a double is Mayo. Now the score is 8-2, and Detroit has a commanding lead. Mayo is at 2nd with a double down the left field line. Now here's Doc Kramer coming up. Left-handed batter who is 3 for 4 this afternoon. Swings, fouls it off. Strike 1. Eddie Mayo, who's doubled just a moment ago, drove in Webb from first after Webb had been walked, and whose double was his 7th hit. That's Mayo leading off 2nd now. Feeling pretty good. Doc Kramer swings on that one, hits it on the ground, down to Don Johnson at 2nd. Johnson bobbles it, picks it up, throws to first in time. Johnson's quite a juggler. That ball bobbled away from him. He reached up in the air with his right hand, plucked it out of the air, threw it to first to get Kramer. Mayo going to 3rd on the play. 1 out. Runner at 3rd. Score 8-2 in favor of Detroit. And a stir goes through the crowd as Greenberg comes to the plate. Big Hank. Greenberg has walked twice, sacrificed once, and struck out once. This is his 5th time at the plate in this ball game. Pitch is close to him and a little bit high. Ball 1. And Detroit partisans here, and their numbers are not legion, are shouting for Hank to get a hit. They'd like to see him slug that long ball. Passeau is walking around on the mound, kicking some dirt out of the way, blowing his breath on his hand, which he does constantly. Passeau, the 5th pitcher for Chicago this afternoon, spells his name Passeau. Here's the pitch. Greenberg swings on it, slices it out into left field, and Lowry comes in and makes a sensational running catch on it. There's the throw to the plate as Eddie Mayo comes in to score easily with run number 9. Mayo had to go back to third and touch up. Lowry came in, made a running catch on that line drive of Greenberg's out into left field, retiring Greenberg, but Mayo, speedy on his feet, came in to score, run number 9 for Detroit. That makes it 2 out, nobody on, 2 runs in here in the top of the 8th inning, and up comes Cullenbine. Cullenbine, who has been walked 8 times in this series, steps up there and fouls off the first pitch from Passeau. Strike 1. And so the road becomes steeper for the Cubs. Passeau delivers a little high, Cullenbine taking it for ball 1. 1 ball, 1 strike. Cullenbine has struck out and strolled 3 times in this game. Another pitch to him is high again for ball 2. Big Roy, who got off to a slow start in the series, come through in fair fashion. He has 5 hits out of 21 times up. Swings on that one. There's a towering high infield pop-up. Back on the grass under it is Johnson now at second, and he takes it for the out. That retires the side for Detroit in the top of the 8th inning. 2 runs on 1 hit. There were no base runners left on, and there were no Chicago errors. So at the end of 7.5 innings of play, the score is Detroit 9, Chicago 2. Well, it was Joe Cronin, famous for his affable way and his ready smile, who said earlier today that in his experience, no other shaving combination compares with the Gillette Razor and Gillette Blue Blade. Now, I might add that in the Army and in the Navy, on land, on sea, and in the air, it's the Gillette Razor and Gillette Blue Blade by overwhelming odds. Naturally so, for the Gillette Blue Blade and the Gillette Razor are made for each other, in the same factory, by the same skilled craftsmen, to the same high precision standards. Yes, today's Gillette Blue Blade and your Gillette Razor are the perfectly matched shaving combination. They fit exactly, work together beautifully, and turn in the smoothest performance known in shaving. Remember, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. Now the home half of the 8th inning. And again, Hal Newhouser returns to the mound. And again, young Prince Hal will work that left arm of his. And he has been, despite the fact that he got off in the series to a faltering start and losing that first game at Detroit, he has been, in the series, as through the season, the main pitching hope of the Detroit Tigers. And it's Newhouser out there today, pitching with just a couple of days' rest. And now he faces Don Johnson, the second baseman of the Cubs, who bats right-handed. Johnson swings on that one. There's a high foul peeling back into the stands. Strike 1 on Don. Johnson got a double his first time up in inning number 1, grounded out in the 3rd inning, and struck out his last time up in inning number 6. Newhouser pitches low into the dirt on the inside. Ball 1. 1 ball, 1 strike. And young Newhouser this year won 25 games against 9 losses for Detroit. And last year he won 29 against 9 losses. And he's bidding here this afternoon for his 2nd World Series victory for the Detroit Tigers. Now he grips that ball. He's ready to go. The 1-1 pitch to Johnson is high, ball 2. 2 balls, 1 strike. Don Johnson grips his bat, swings at a slow one, it's off balance, and fouls it off. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Now Hank Wise is warming up in the bullpen for Chicago. Newhouser taking more and more time with each passing pitch as the game goes on and on into its final stanzas. Pitch is low into the dirt. Ball 3 on Don Johnson. There's activity in the bullpen of the Tigers now, too. Benton and Overmeyer. Johnson swings on that one. It's foul. On the ground outside of third base. 9-2 the score stands. And every loyal Chicago fan glued to his seat here as we move into the last half of the 8th. Here's the 3-2 pitch to Johnson. He swings on it, slaps it down to shortstop. It's taken on the first bounce by Skeeter Webb. The throw to York in time. Johnson is out by 2 strides. Skeeter Webb's played a pretty snappy brand of baseball in this series. Been guilty of only one error, and he's had more than his fair share of chances there at shortstop. Now here's Peanuts Lowry, the former MP in the Army. Steps up there batting right-handed. 1 for 3 today. The delivery to him is high. Ball 1. Lowry's had 8 hits in the series out of 28 times up. Takes a call strike. That was a downer, and it had a lot of stuff on it. That's inside, that pitch. Ball 2. 2 balls, 2 strikes on Lowry. 1 out and nobody on in the last half of the 8th inning. Al Newhouser calmly working. Winds up, left hands it in. It's swung on, blooped down the left field line. In comes Greenberg. He can't come up to it. It falls in for a hit for Lowry, and Lowry is on at first. That's his second hit of the afternoon. Both of them hit out there to Greenberg in left field. Now comes Cabaretta. That is the 7th hit off Newhouser. The 22nd hit off of him in the series. Bill Cabaretta, who's 2 for 3 this afternoon, steps up there. Dark complexion, good looking, very quiet. Pitch to him is on the inside for ball 1. Newhouser works, swung on by Cabaretta, and it's hit back on the ground into center field. Lowry is turning his way down to third, and Kramer fields the ball into second. Lowry is at third, Cabaretta at first. That was the 3rd hit today for Cabaretta. Now here's Pafko, batting right-handed. He has a triple and 3 times up today. And the pressure is on Handy Andy. Swings on that one. It's a high foul coming back into the stand. Strike 1 on Pafko. And here's the kid from the farm country of Wisconsin, who with his 5 brothers used to get up in the morning an hour ahead of time so they could get their farm chores done and go out and play some Pafko baseball. And here he is with his team behind at bat, with a chance to strike a great blow for his team, the Chicago Cubs, here in the 8th inning of the deciding game of this 45 World Series. Swings on that one, hits it on the ground, foul, outside at third base. Score is 9-2 with Detroit in front. These Cubs, they're not through yet. Newhouser carefully rubbing up a new ball. 2 strikes quickly on Pafko. He's fouled off 2 of them. The pitch is swung on. He strikes out. Newhouser struck out Pafko twice in a row with men on bases. And for Newhouser, that is strikeout number 8. In the series, it's his 20th strikeout. That makes it 2 out now for Chicago in the last of the 8th. And still Cabaretta's at first and Lowry at third. And here's Nicholson. Nicholson hasn't hit today. Hasn't gotten the ball out of the infield. Takes an outside pitch for ball 1. Nicholson, who has batted in 7 runs, more than anybody else in the series. There, batting left-handed, swings on one. There's a high, towering foul off to the right of the plate. Richards goes over to the stands, but it's going into the stands. That's a strike on Nicholson. 1 ball, 1 strike on Bad Bill. Nicholson, the big fellow from down in Chesterton, Maryland. Fellow who as a kid wanted to go to the United States Naval Academy at Annapolis, but color blindness kept him out. So he went to Washington College instead, graduated, and here he is, a Major League Baseball star. 1-1 on him. That pitch is down a little bit low into the dirt. I think he foul-tipped it. Not sure. Foul tip hit Richards on the hand, and Richards is trotting over toward the dugout of the Tigers, and there will be time called now. Yep, Nicholson foul-tipped that one just slightly off of his bat, and it caught Richards on the hand, his right hand, and he promptly ran over toward the dugout, and I think that will be all for Richards. I believe Bob Swift is being waved in from the bullpen. So Richards has apparently hurt a finger on his throwing hand. And just to keep Newhouser warm, here comes Jimmy Wilson, I think. Let's see who that is coming out to warm him up. It's young Jimmy Miller. who it is, coming out to keep Newhouser warm as Bob Swift gets the tools of catching on. And he's coming in here as Richards is injured in the last half of the 8th inning. That's too bad for Paul.
Attention, please. Kenneth M. Casey.
1 ball, 2 strikes is the count on the batter, Nicholson. He's batting in the clutch for Chicago in the last half of the 8th as these Cubs try to stay in the running. Cabaret is at first, Lowry is at third. Now Steve O'Neill is walking out of the dugout of the Tigers and back to his spot, coaching behind third. And that'll be all in this series for Paul Richards. Richards has certainly done himself very handsomely in the series. Today he has driven in 4 runs in this, the 7th and deciding ball game, for a total of 6 runs batted in the series. He's had 2 doubles today, which gives him 4 hits out of 19 times up in the series. He was walked 4 times, and he struck out 3 times. And that's a record of accomplishment on the part of Paul Richards that stamps him as a tremendous asset to the Tigers in this very, very thrilling 1945 series. And Steve O'Neill has stopped on his way back to third now to say a few words to his son-in-law, Skeeter Webb, who plays at shortstop. And now O'Neill seems to have inspected everything, and he's going back to the Tiger dugout. And here's Bob Swift. Swift, who was born in Salina, Kansas. He said he thought up until a couple of weeks ago that he was born in a place called Kip, Kansas. But he sort of talked it over with the family, and they tell him he was born in Salina. They lived for a while in Kip, which is a small town outside of Salina, Kansas. And Swift, as we've mentioned before, is known as the best waffle maker in Major League Baseball, as if that had any bearing on what's happening right now down there. It doesn't. Newhouser is pitching to Swift now, and Swift is taking his throw down to second. Now he grabs the mask, puts it on, and the sturdy fellow is ready to go. Now here's the situation. There are 2 out in the last of the 8th. Lowry is at third, Cabaretta is at first. They both hit Newhouser. And the count on Bill Nicholson is 1 ball, 2 strikes. Now the left-handed slugger Nicholson is in there. Again, his jaw is stuck out at Newhouser. Newhouser pitches low and outside, ball 2. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out, 2 on. Newhouser stretches. Nicholson swings on it, and it's foul on the ground down the first base line. Count remains 2 balls, 2 strikes. Though Detroit has a lead of 9-2, this game, like all baseball games, and that's one of the thrilling aspects of this great American pastime, is not over until the last man is out. And nobody is saying that to himself more sharply than Nicholson at the plate now. Swings on one, slaps it on to center field. It's good for a hit. It's going to the right of Kramer. Lowry has already scored. Cabaretta is rounding third and holding up at third, and Nicholson is into second with a double. Cabaretta was held up at third as that ball was retrieved in left center field by Doc Kramer and whipped in. Kramer has a pretty good throwing arm. So Nicholson is at second now. Cabaretta is at third. 1 run is crossed. The score is 9-3, and the batter is Mickey Livingston. That's the 8th run batted in this series for Nicholson, and it ties him for a 7-game series record with Goose Gosselin of Washington, who batted in 8 runs in 24, and Al Simmons of the A's, who hit in 8 runs in 1931. Of course, in a 4-game series, Gehrig in 28 drove in 9. Now there's a swinging strike by Mickey Livingston, who missed it. Livingston, batting right-handed, is 1 for 3 today. He has driven in 4 runs in this series. He has 8 hits out of 21 times up. The pitch is good for a call strike. Livingston started for it, checked his swing, and Art Passarella calls it a strike. So it's 2 strikes on Livingston. Runners at second and third for Chicago. 2 out. Last of the 8th. The Cubs trying to rally. Newhouser pitches. It's high and inside. Ball 1. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Livingston, a discharged GI, was in the Army Ground Forces. He's had his misfortunes in baseball. He's had his ups and downs, but he's a hard customer. Swings, strikes out. So Newhouser whips through his 9th strikeout of the ball game to retire the side in the last half of the 8th inning. That brought 1 run for Chicago on 3 hits, 2 base runners left on. There were no Detroit errors. So the score at the end of 8 full innings of this thrilling 7th and deciding game of the 45 series is Detroit 9 and Chicago 3. Boy, you can't afford to miss Bill Corum's highlights of today's thrilling ball game. So stay tuned in. Hear a great reporter do his stuff right off the cuff, just as soon as the last man is out in this game here at Wrigley Field. Now we set the stage for you again at the start of inning number 9. As the sands of time and fortune are running out, and Charlie Graham, as you can see, is using every bit of ammunition here to control our squad to try to pull this game out of the fire. This is the fourth pitcher that came out there. 1 hour for the Tigers. As you know, let me remind you of the late Hank Roy started the ball game when they collected 3 hits for all of him out on the mound. That was all for him. As he was called in, he was released by Vandenberg during the series. In the second inning, Vandenberg pitched 90 classic ball. He gave up only 1 hit, giving up 8 hits in his 6 innings. Charged with the loss of 1 game. Now Vandenberg was lifted in the last half of his 5th inning. He's available to have Ron Paul Erickson, the big right-hander. Touch and high chip in this series. Erickson has appeared in 3 games. He's married to Gaines and as a pension officer. Denny Burns, former great National League 5 innings, and given up 6 hits. Wise is a sturdy fellow. Erickson hails from Zion, Illinois. He's the one who's called on him. He weighs 200 pounds, and he's a big aggressive figure out there on the mound. Getting early started. Jimmy Evans, right-handed first. Then Erickson using the ball, now wide. That was a fastball that took the inside corner waist high. W-Y-S-E, ever starting to run Buddy Brown for the Tiger family. Down and arch side arm and left arm, he and his right, too, to set up things as far as he gets strikes. Jimmy Skeeter Webb, and here's Rudy York, Cartersville, Georgia. Skeeter's got his 3-year-old little dog, and strike one. Nice little kid. It'll be York, Outlaw, and Swift. That strikes in this inning. Caroline's bottom of the ninth. Swings on that left-handed fly ball going up the center field. He lines up the middle. He's high and now takes all the out, close to 1 knee after 1 strike, but I don't think he's over. No, Bustin' York. So that was out there. Andy Papa on center field. Okay. Eyes works. York swings on it. There's a high hit, long hit, fly ball in the right field. Gladys Nichols. He's under there by the high platform. You can tell. York is on the fact that you don't get too much noise in the background except when there's a Cub rally on. Jimmy out. Chicago fans are pulling for that team. That's right. Here's Eddie Mayo stepping up, batting left 1 for 3 in this ball game. All strike. 5 for 27 in the series. Erickson was very fast with the third ball, just above the knees on the outside. He's batted in 3 runs. Mayo bats left-handed. He's 1 for 3 in this game. Bats away from an inside pitch. Ball by the shin. Ball 1. 1 ball, 1 strike. Mayo usually pipes his chewing gum on that button on the top of his cap, but I haven't seen him do it in the World Series. It's a little bit too serious to see piping gum on your cap. 1-1 on there. Erickson pitches sidearm. It's too high. Ball 2. Here's Bob Swift. Now he's taking a look at the Mayo through his glasses and he's standing just in 46 feet up there. He's around 190 pounds. He's 29 years old. He's a sturdy looking right-handed body. 2 balls out in the bottom of Mayo, and Erickson takes plenty of time. The swing misses once. Now the big guy winds up in the ridge. Mayo swings on the fly ball going to the left field off there. Is Lowry on the running again. He's going to walk right. There's strike 2. That was a pretty deep hit ball. And Pat Lowry, starting with the back of the bat, was running back and to his left. Now Hank back almost for that vine-covered wall out there. He made the catch. Swings on it. There's a bounding ball to Hackney. Gets it, throws over to Passerotti. And that's with himself. Here's Don Kramer. 5 for 3. Done pretty consistent. Hank Wise does his 2 for 3. Then he now has 10 hits, and there's no cross strike. Right. We move into 2 on 1. Passes down the left field. That's half of the night. Detroit leading 9 to 3. Hank Wise, the last pitcher. in the ball game up to this point for Chicago and Hank Leroy. That's the first pitcher. Getting ready for the change here on the last half of the ninth. Newhousen tries to get the mound. Swings on that one, steps it out to center field. There's another hit for him. The ball rolls out and Pat Moon center field and he throws it back into second. And Kramer's off with his third hit of the afternoon. That was also the first hit of Perry home. And the batter coming up is Greenberg. There's a stir in the stands. It's Big Hank. Hank's been walked twice today, and he's been walked 6 times in the series. First time up this afternoon, he sacrificed successfully. Big Hank, the long ball hitter, who has slugged out 2 home runs, 3 doubles, steps up there. And he gets a called strike. Erickson was out on the last third, just below the shoulders of Mr. Greenberg.
Eddie is a big fellow, 6'3", weighs 205. He instantly just they played away. Murkowitz is out there.
Greenberg takes it outside.
Greenberg and
one ball, 1 strike. Peanuts Lowry has gone so deep out the left field, you can barely see the home
struck out twice and lost one.
Over his head to Hank Greenberg slugged that one.
And responsible for 2 of them. We're going to the last half of the 9th inning.
Here it comes. Greenberg takes another foul strike. And Hank, who's usually pretty genial, looks a little bit irritated at that. 2 strikes on him. The outfield plays Greenberg, so there was a big hole between center field and right field. They pull him around to the left.
I believe that the right coming up here to be the hitter.
Kramer leads off first, 2 out. There's a throw first. Kramer hopping back on.
Series itself. This decisive one.
For all of his 39 years, Doc Kramer said he's going to pitching on play baseball for 70 miles an hour.
Swings on that one, hits it back through the middle. It's a hit.
Greenberg fouls that one off.
Comes around all the way. Fielded by Thompson. Went down to his knees to make sure it didn't go through.
Still one more.
And here is Clyde McCullough.
On Monday, 12 innings.
On Henry Greenberg. I think that's some of the time right hand. He's been all in one. Erickson works hard, who was Kramer regular to second. The pitch is outside. Livingston has a hard time holding it. Tremendous Kramer is on down to second on the left. Stolen base for him, right-handed batter. That's the third stolen basing the Tigers in this series. And the second one, he looks a little bit heavier. Colin Line out on the Kramer. Now going for the batter a couple of years ago. The Cubs, on the other hand, has 2 stolen bases. Jody Kyle and Snitch Ham. That's it. Colin Greenberg is 2 balls, 2 strikes. That's the inside. A big ball Erickson. This stretches. Delivers to Greenberg, who strikes out.
Strike 2 on Clyde McCullough. Chicago by striking out Greenberg today. That's all for the Tigers. They're holding his own. Ahead of that one, and Manoa looks pretty. We're heading for last of the 6th. Chicago's hit. Doesn't stand the reason. Gillette, of all folks, who tries to reach up on that the kind of shaving cream that you want. That pitch is high. I'm sorry, you're very fair. Not shaving, more comfortable. Well, take it from here and see a week, and that's what the shaving cream does. It makes the lips moisturize around it, and holds it down together. And releases the cream until the whatever is open and pitching it up. It's soft, all the while in the way. The razor lines like a felon. They are hard then Gillette modifies the cream, stays well on your face, and keeps your whiskers properly conditioned by the pitcher. It's fine. Three balls, 2 strikes, and that's how much you like him. It's men prefer. Ronald First, that's seniors, who look at a looking shade. When you use Gillette lather shaving cream, of course, he swings the strike out. You have a guy McGinnis, strike out of the ball. Chicago, trailing by 4 runs. Otherwise, the chances are running out. Dan Hack, the hero, fans one time are working against him. Hitting hero, and they have in the regulation. 4 more times to play to see how Southey, turning back to the Tigers, march out of Wrigley Field, world champion, the series record, doing a number of hits. He has 11. Now Newhousen is playing right on high, inside, ball Russell on the right-handed hitter is 1-2. Here's the first. Moves forward on the inside corner. The other game at sea by strike one on pitch is swung on. It's slapped out towards center field. Thurston moving from his tracks now. A couple of steps. Cameron has got it outside. And that is out number 2 on the net behind the catcher. It's just under 11. Comes the Tiger victory. Bases are out. There's runner on at third. Richards comes from left to Hackman. This is the last man in Chicago Cup. We've been calling him right. He has a lot of
4 times up. Swing ball line, slaps it down to Skeeter Webb. Webb has it close, underhand away on it. Forcing the runner here at second and ending the ball game. And swing strikes out 45 World Series. Strikeout number 5. Last half inning, no runs to Chicago. 1 hit, 1 base runner left on, 1 in the first inning, 8 errors, 1 in the second, 1 in the third, 1 in the fourth, 1 in the fifth, Chicago 3, and the Tigers are the 1945 George Camp Lowry, a right-handed hitter who was off 9 runs, 9 hits, 1 error, flat out in left field at 10 hits. And Greenberg coming up the field, the world champions are the Detroit Tigers taking a shot at the without Steve O'Neill. It's a single play that is happy, and it's the number 5 side for Carl Hazard. Now, Bill Cora plays out hit every time. He's out on the play. We're proud to give you the highlights in the day's game. He's all now has 10 hits and 24 times up. While we're waiting, folks, let's remember that double victory has come on, and we haven't begun to play with them. That's the reason for which going on outside begins on October 21. This drive is not what you see. It's like that one next to the Lord's Station and that is essential to peace. In very large measure, the success of this drive will depend on the wholehearted cooperation of these are the men and women who get there the offending laws every time and ever to put our war on the over the top. Start a threat. Now, Uncle Sam is calling them back to finish the job. And they'll call strike. So Bridgewater's volunteers call upon you to over there. Give them a warm and control. Here, the eye of the ball, the mind that tells all, and the tongue that tells all. He swings on a low-taking turn.
I think it's wonderful that the Tigers won and won the way they did today, all the way, and to become the 1945 baseball champions of the world, and bring that flag back to the American League that they would start with. This is the second time that the Tigers won a world championship, and they've won them both in Insane Park back in 1935.
Bends over, his hands on his knees. He's jolly now. He's our
series.
There's the 3-2 pitch. It's swung on. There's a fly ball. In comes Kramer. He comes up short and catches it. Now he's going to have to hurry to get back to first and third.
Steve O'Neill on the
short center field. The top man ends up rushing in the count.
Great today. A new series record. 22 strikeouts.
That's a big swing in batting today. The first time he leads to a double play. He's a right-handed hitter, Andy.
As Mullen, Johnson, and Earnshaw.
He's one of the 6 Snapco brothers.
That is what he was yesterday. He was a great pitcher today, very fast, and with a fine curve, and how he was in control.
Last curve, midway between the waist and knees, and he took it.
Is indicated by the fact that he struck out all 3 of Charlie Grimm's pitch hitters. That shows that in the
There's strike 2. That was a fast curve on the inside corner.
Tiger pitchers have that in this series, and their big bats have roared, and that was the 2 strikes. Gavaretta was the leading hitter of the series. I think he's bringing the right to that and make him very fast. I think he led the hitter to 423, and I imagine Bud Kramer was second at 379. They not turned out to be absolutely right, nor declared his share when he cleared share for the Tigers, which will be around $6,400 and $4,000.
And he strikes out.
Acting well in the series, and
that goes out there. He struck out number 6 for Newhouse. He struck out 2 of them this inning, and he struck out 2 in inning number 5. So in the last half of the 6th inning, no runs for Chicago, 1 hit, 1 base on the left on, and there are no errors.
In this one,
there's a game of 6th inning retired. Detroit 6 and Chicago 2. Knocks it down, and he's got it, and puts that baseball Newhouse in the series. And now we move into inning number 7.
Vandenberg gets him out of there.
And as we've said, the issue is becoming sharper and sharper with each advancing inning. Now we're only 3 innings left. Tigers out in front, 6-2. And on the mound, Erickson is completing the formal.
They won 9 runs up there in Detroit in the opening game.
Behind the plate is Mickey Livingston, the Valley guy from South Carolina. And at first is the number 1, second is Johnson, shortstop, Roy Hughes, whispering there. Detroit.
Yes, I
And the third is the great Stan Mack. And left field's little Peanuts Lowry. And the center field is Andy Pepper. Now right field is Brad Bill Nicholson. And those are the Cubs on the field. They're behind now. And Detroit threatens to take the series from them.
And they knocked
As they did 10 years ago. Now the first Detroit man in inning number 7. Roy Cullenbine. He has been walked 7 times in the series and struck out. Today he's been walked twice and struck out once. He's last time up. Pitch swing is low and outside by Paul Erickson. Ball 1.
Series record has so many records were tied. He's beaten in this.
Cullenbine, big and husky. He hit from either side of the plate. Batting left-handed and goes against right-handed pitching.
Pitching surprised me a great deal. For years he's been one.
Erickson works. It's outside. On the sidearm delivery that didn't quite do what Paul wanted to.
And he walked in 2 runs today, which I'm sure the Derringer Bowles never would have done. Roy simply didn't have the ball starting right out of the web and Mayo.
Cullenbine started for it, checked his swing, and it was in just above the knees.
And to the
About 1 strike now.
Pretty much out he was the box then with the single.
Cullenbine, a citizen of Detroit.
And after Greenberg, who hurt his right
Had a
wrist
ball
out
here
here
up
in
there
the
on
starting
that
game and wound up
Lot of ball players like
finally took him out in the 9th inning. Hurt his wrist
Pitch, it's inside. All 3.
Very flexible with it.
There's 1 strike on the first batter for Detroit in the top of the 7th. Erickson looked a little disconsolate after the call on that last one. There's no activity in the top bullpen right now. That's a call strike from Cullenbine, who had turned up to start down the first.
And then Richard
Cullenbine has been walked more than anybody in the series.
here in the late innings. Sliced the double down the left field line. And there was the World Series in 1945.
Now the count is 3-4. The Streams are
Him hitting 4 runs, this being the 7th consecutive game.
It's high and that's why the last again.
And he is the number 2
Immediately
hitter.
at about right to the end, and the never gave up.
I don't be record-minded on that because the record number of walks started by any batter in the World Series is 11. Cullenbine 3 away from that. Of course, that was the World Series back in 26 in the 7-game series between the Yanks and the Cards. Saved the ball 11 times. Now the batter is Rudy York. Erickson pitches him high and inside with rolling out from that side for Livingston. Going out and batting third first.
Good for a strike. Now
He's got his official time up today. He hasn't hit yet. He was walked once.
2 outs here in the last
23 at-bats here in the World Series in 1945.
York in the series has been walked 3 times.
This is the
Struck out 3 times, too, incidentally. Swing, misses it. Foul tipped it.
He was hitting right-handed, batting
Went
third.
walking into the chest protector of the
Now the
umpire.
cross curve, and it's good. Just above the knees on the outside corner. for
Twist
strike 1.
goes a high curve and almost got away from Livingston.
Center fielder moves a little to his right, our left.
It's just outside.
And Nicholson pulls over to the left, too, the right
1 ball, 1
fielder.
strike.
Pretty good piece of territory between Nicholson and the right field line.
Battery made his
York swings, misses. Strike 2.
Roy goes 3 and 2.
This time
Rudy didn't swing, but he pulled up on power on that.
Second and into right field. Skeeter Webb opens.
And now there is activity in the Cub bullpen. It's Ray
That's
Burnham
the
there.
bullpen for the Chicago Cubs.
That incidentally in the series.
Number
Number 19 after
Erickson.
Roy. Hit number
Starting
1
to
of
get
him this
ready.
afternoon.
Which leads us to believe that
One and two is Erickson's count on York.
Second baseman Eddie Mayo.
Pitch. Strike 3.
Now Hughes takes it. It's a nice call stance. That's the third one.
That's the second strikeout for Paul Erickson.
Let's see, as far as strike
Cullenbine is still at first.
Second one for Hal.
1 out for Detroit in the top of the
Another
7th.
clean base hit right through the hole in right field.
Just tuned in.
Skeeter Webb
Scores
is coming on
62 in favor of Detroit.
throw into third.
Now here's little Jimmy Outlaw. He had 1 hit out to official time.
Third base as Mayo circles behind him in the right
Swings
field.
on a foul ball as Cullenbine broke for second. The ball goes down into the stands there, and Cullenbine will go back to first.
That's the 20th
Strike on
strike he's given
Outlaw.
up here in the 1945 World Series. And Paul Derringer starts Hurley to get ready down
Jimmy
the
battled in a run back in inning number 1 by the simple process of being walked.
starting to throw very rapidly.
He's batted in 3 runs in the series.
First and
He's had 5 hits and 26 times
Here is
hit.
Doc Kramer, who is tied for the number 4 spot in hitting honors.
Except with the game so far.
Outlaw's ready to go again. Erickson pitches high. Ball 1.
Out of listening in. Captain Hank Greenberg has won the quarter.
1-1 on little Jimmy.
This is the next.
Who hails from down in Jackson, Alabama. Very well liked there, and I may add everywhere. He's a swell little guy. There's a throw over to first. Big Willie Cullenbine was not far off, and so he didn't have to do much by way of getting back. Erickson works, Cullenbine is breaking, and the ball is popped up into short center field. In comes Papco under it, and Cullenbine halfway down to second beats his way back to first. Pasco took it on the run to the out on outlaw.
As we start.
Two outs.
Top of the seventh. It does fall in.
Batter now is Paul Richards, right-handed hitter, who has a double out of 3 times up. And he has driven in 3 runs this afternoon and 5 in the series. And I had a wire from down in Atlanta where he used to be the manager of the Crackers, and they said down there we affectionately call him Old Slug. So Old Slug swings, and this is one. That's a strike on Paul.
And views the shortstop and couldn't get out. So the first run comes in, and that's hit number 3 off the row.
And walking once he fixes. From right-handed hitter. Swings, fouls it off, falls to the ground. Now he's up again. He was sort of trying to move himself out of the way of that pitch. His bat came swinging around, and the ball caromed off his bat, and he ended up on the ground.
Strike 3.
Cullenbine, who walked, but he's still at first, and there are 2 out. Erickson works down low into the dirt, neatly held up by Mickey Livingston.
The third spot, veteran ball lines will be coming into. Batter coming up now is Hal Newhouse.
Steve O'Neill, coaching down at third, looking down at the ground, kicking the dirt a little bit. I imagine at this particular point, his heart is full of joy and nervousness. There's the pitch to Richards. He swings on it, slaps out in center field. It's falling in for a hit. It's falling to the left of Pasco. It's rolling to the wall out there. Here's Cullenbine rounding third. He's headed for the plate. Here comes the throw into second, and Richards lazily holds up at second with a run-producing double. That's the second double of the afternoon for Old Slug, Paul Richards, and it's his 4th run batted in today. And for Detroit, it is run number 7, and they lead the Cubs now by a score of 7-2. A round of applause for Newhouser as he comes up. That's left-handed. Erickson pitches him inside, ball 1. Paul Richards takes a lazy lead off second there. Not lazy in that sense, he's just relaxed. Newhouser swings on one, slaps it out towards center field. Pasco going to his right, takes it nicely on the run. That's all for Detroit in the top of the 7th. 1 run on 1 hit. There was 1 base runner left on. There were no Cub errors. And the score at the end of 6.5 innings of play is Detroit 7 and Chicago 2. Well, now, just about everybody knows genial Irish Joe Cronin of the Boston Red Sox, one of the greatest shortstops of all time. Joe, who has spent more years as a player-manager than any other major leaguer, is with us here in the booth again this afternoon. Time ran short when you were on the air last Saturday, Joe, so let's pick up where we left off. You know, we say that the Gillette Razor and Gillette Blue Blade are the greatest shaving team on earth. What do you think?
I'm with you 100% on that, Bill. From my experience, no other combination compares with it for easy shaving.
Right you are, Joe. That's because the Gillette Razor and Gillette Blue Blade are made for each other and work together perfectly.
Well, they sure do a smooth job with my whiskers every time.
Well, that's putting it very straight, and thanks, Joe Cronin. Remember, men, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blade with the sharpest edges ever honed. Now it's the home half of the 7th inning, and still the Chicago fans are on their feet in the old baseball custom. Nicholson is going to be the first hitter for Chicago in the last of the 7th. And lefty Hal Newhouser, who in this series has won 1 and lost 1, and is trying to pitch the Tigers into the World's Championship in 1945 and doing pretty handsomely right now, is on the mound. And this young 24-year-old, who's a Detroit product all the way, started his athletic career in Wilbur Wright High School at Baird. One of the great stars. Tiger history this year is about to pitch to Nicholson. He does so, and Nicholson takes it outside. Ball 1. Bill Nicholson hasn't had a hit today. Fouled out once to the catcher, and the next time hit back to Newhouser on the mound. Swings on this one. There's a high foul up, coming back into the stand. Lands on the screen, and lazily rolls off. 1 ball, 1 strike on Big Bill Nicholson.
No hits. It's a 1-0 ball game.
Nicholson has driven in 7 runs so far in this series. That's more than anybody else.
1945 series. Derringer winds up slowly now with the next delivery. Then into swing for strikes. Fun all the way around.
Newhouser lets it go. It's high, and Nicholson fouls it off, reaching for a high three-quarter speed curveball.
First cut by
1 ball, 2 strikes.
Al Newhouser working very well for Detroit. Delivers.
Nicholson's dark complexion, and he has that menacing attitude at the plate that we've described for you so many times. Art Passarella, the plate umpire, goes out there and holds up the game for a second while some Tiger players in the bullpen down right field get off the field.
He was struck out a lot of
Now Newhouser's ready to go, and here's the pitch. Nicholson swings on it. There's a bounding ball down to first. York has it. Tosses it underhand to Newhouser, who steps on first just ahead of Nicholson for the out.
They look like the Derringer.
Nicholson is out 3-1.
And
that's another rather smoothly executed play at first base by Rudy York. It's the defensive play in the series. He attracted a great deal of comment, and deservedly so, too, because Rudy, not generally known as a great fielding first baseman, has been very, very sharp here in the second game 1945 series.
2 balls, 2 strikes.
Now the batter is Mickey Livingston.
We're in the last half of the game here with Tigers.
Score behind, that's right-handed.
One out.
Livingston has swung on and slapped out into left field for a hit. Greenberg fields it on the second bounce out there, and there's his step throw into second. Livingston is on.
There's a low sweeping third on the
That's the 8th hit in the series for Mickey Livingston, and he's first one this afternoon. Stubby Overmeyer is working in the bullpen for the Tigers now. A little short, stocky Michigan man.
39-year-old veteran. He has plenty of pressure on his shoulders right now.
The batter is Flipping Roy Hughes.
Like this got
a lot of friends down in Cincinnati. Pitch swing is long outside.
Outside field. It may fall in for a base hit.
Al Benson is now up and tossing the ball around in favor of the Tigers. Also,
2 strikes. Out back of right field.
Livingston at first.
Rudy almost hit one. Watches Newhouser get ready.
Hughes swings on the shot one.
Ball down to third. Outlaw comes up. That means Rudy first.
He was really wanting to get on down that third base line on Jimmy Outlaw, who was playing fairly deep on this right-handed hitter, and beat it out to first.
Jimmy Outlaw.
Rod Passau is throwing the ball in the bullpen of the Cubs. Both managers keeping men all wound up.
7th game of the World Series here at Wrigley Field.
Any little old break, one way or the other. They're going to make a move.
Getting a little more brilliant down on the diamond.
Out on Hughes with 1 ball, 1 strike. Newhouser pitches him, and Hughes fouls it into the crowd down the right field line. 2 strikes. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Fouled off to the right of the stays at 3-2.
Hughes started his base there on the sandlot of Cincinnati where he was born.
1 out, and the base is closed. Out of 3-2, and Derringer.
That pitch is low into the dirt. It gets away from Richards, and going down to second is Mickey Livingston. Gets the going on that for just a second. In just a second, I hunch it was a wild pitch. It's a wild pitch. The ball was thrown into the dirt to the left of Richards, who tried to scoop it up, and then it bounced off his mask and rolled over toward the crowd here. While that was happening, Mickey Livingston was turning his way down to second. That's the first wild pitch that Al Newhouser made in the series.
They have a right to do so because he likes a long ball.
And one of the reasons why Al Newhouser's definition of wild pitches and his wildness has been cured, as it has been in the last couple of years, is that guy behind the plate.
With 2 hits off Newhouser.
He was a cagey catcher at 37 and was seen a lot of baseball. He's had a great deal to do with affecting the control that has made Newhouser the great left-handed pitcher of the last 2 years. Now the count on Hughes is 2-2. Now it's 3-2 because that pitch was very high. The pitcher Erickson is supposed to hit next, but I imagine we'll have a pinch hitter for him. Hughes can do some business. That pitch is low into the dirt, bounces into Richard's glove. It's a walk for Hughes. I believe that's the first walk today, given up by Newhouser. And here comes Frank Sikoria up to be a pinch hitter.
Opens his stance slightly toward first base. Well, that's the second out.
Sikoria's coming up as a pinch hitter. This will be the 5th game in which Sikoria has been used as a pinch hitter. And he has had 2 hits out of 4 times up. That gives him as a pinch hitter a 500 batting average, which is nothing to be sneezed at. Now there are cut runners at first and second. There's only 1 out. Sikoria, the right-handed batter, is standing in there. There's a curve that comes in and over for a ball strike.
He was hitting at 167.
Sikoria's a big athlete. The great big number 49 on his back. He's an outfielder.
1 ball, 1 strike.
Comes from Fort Huron in the state of Michigan. He was born in Iowa.
Swings,
fouls it off, strike 2.
So ball hangs outside the ball 2. Mayo takes the lead off third.
Newhouser in a bit of trouble here.
Staying in no mind.
In the last half of the seventh. He's rubbing up the new ball very carefully.
Strike two.
There's the pitch again. Curveball. It's sliding.
Newhouser looked very calm and cool at breakfast this morning in the hotel.
2 balls, 2 strikes.
Yep,
Now on Eddie Mayo.
couple of
First man up with the third.
Captain Overmeyer still working in the bullpen for the Tigers.
long ball.
Brandenburg delivers.
Now Detroit is ready to go again, and Newhouser has that ball left up. He has 2 strikes on Detroit.
That's all for Mayo.
There's a high curve right
Now he has 3 strikes on him. A third strike.
He's the only pitcher. We're doing
That was a very, very clever curveball that Newhouser put in there on the 0-2 pitch, and he got Secoy, who was standing taking.
Outlaw takes it.
That makes it 2 out.
Inside for ball 4.
It's a matter of time.
Right in there.
Smiling Stanley Camfield Hunt, the Californian, who's been one of the stars of this series. That's left-handed. This is his 4th time up today, and he hasn't hit today, although he has 11 hits so far. The pitch is close to him and inside. Ball 1. Livingston at second with itchy feet. Hughes at first. His itch too. Pitch to Hackett high for ball 2. 2-0 the count.
Look at that outfield move back to Greenberg.
And regardless of how this series goes out, there's a great figure in baseball at that plate down there, Stan Hack. Now on that mound is a great young left-handed pitcher. He should have a magnificent career ahead of him, Newhouser.
Big hole in right field.
Stands deep.
Pitching here with very little rest today. There's a call strike that he puts in on Hack. Curveball just above the knees, knocked the outside corner to the left-handed batter.
The count on Richards now is 1-1.
Now Mayo tries to sneak behind Livingston at second. The crowd warns him. Hack swings on that one. He goes to Outlaw down at third. He steps on third, forcing Livingston, retiring the side. Hack gets into a force out. Now score Livingston out at third to the first third baseman, unassisted. So in the last half of the 7th inning, no runs for Chicago. 1 hit, 2 base runners left on. There were no Detroit errors. At the end of 7 full innings of play, the score is Detroit 7, Chicago 2. Now, when this crucial game ends this afternoon, stay tuned in for Bill Corum, famous columnist of the New York Journal American Sports Staff. Hear a brief reporter translate today's baseball classic. Now, while we're waiting for the start of operations in the top of inning number 8, let's take a little pause here, 10 seconds, for station identification. Remember, men, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
This is WGN Chicago, serving Illinois.
Now at the end of inning number 7, Al has our total scores here. Detroit 7 runs, 8 hits, 1 error. Chicago 2 runs, 6 hits, and no errors. And now coming into pitch for Chicago in the top of the 8th inning is Claude Passeau. Passeau has been, as you know, one of the great figures in this series. Pitching up in Detroit, one of the most perfect games ever hurled in a World Series. Passeau, appearing in his 3rd game, has pitched 15 2/3 innings. He's given up 6 hits. He has struck out 3, and he has walked 7. And he is credited with 1 victory and no defeats in this series. When he failed to come through down here, why, he was out, and the Cubs went ahead and won the ball game, so he was not credited with a defeat, or debited, rather, with a defeat. First batter he faces is Jimmy Webb, the right-handed hitting shortstop of Detroit. Passeau pitches to him, low and inside. And Claude is working out there with a badly split fingernail on his left hand when he flagged down a hot line drive the other day, which is characteristic of Passeau.
2 outs in the top of the 4th, and Hank Greenberg
Webb fouls that one off. It's a high pop-up coming back into the stand. 1 ball, 1 strike. Now down in the bullpen for Chicago is Brooklyn's Bob Chipman, a lefty. 1-1 is the count that the sturdy tongue-up farmer from Mississippi, Passeau, had on the wagon. Now the count's 2-1 because that pitch by Captain Passeau was too high. So all 2.
The score stands Tigers 6. Well, we're kind of damage now in the first inning is 9.
Really, I like to watch it.
Passeau working for a short wind-up.
Yes,
Webb taking high, ball 3.
3 and 4 hits.
3-1.
speed counts for plenty and shaving, too.
One man left.
But it's
Of course, that's up to the Cubs now to try to get these Tigers out of here just as rapidly as possible. Then come back in the 2 innings of the regulation length to the left of Chicago. See what they can do about this 5-run double.
What's more,
Here's pitch.
it's like it's a barrel
High
of
and
water.
inside, small ball.
Every bristle of fur, so
Left is walk.
When you shave,
yes,
the
let
smooth,
brush for
refreshing
seconds,
all
double and
Just a second walk.
Here's what
Skeeter's
I'm
gotten in the series.
Lubricate your blade. Let it shave and
That's
rest
8-man
quicker and
walk.
rest.
Whisk them off with today's
For
Gillette
extra
Blue
shaving
Blade and
speed and
Gillette
comfort.
razor.
Now the
That's
batter is
good
Kenny
enough
Mayo.
for Gillette brushes.
Very best.
Mayo has
He's
1
out
hit
of
out of
stock
4
today.
times up today.
Does the four-time
Turned
shave.
6 for 27 in the
Here's
series.
Gillette brush for
That'll hold
soon.
abundant moisture and stay wet on you. Out for the last half of inning
What's
number
more,
4.
Eddie twisted his left leg away from an inside pitch. The ball one.
Whatever say throw fellows coming up for his working together at bat. They give you the front chance of your life. Ask your dealer for Gillette
He's over one.
Gillette
There's a
Labs.
base runner in the first inning when you
Taking
out
it
the
away.
ball.
Easier all Gillette
Being held
Labs.
on at first by Cabaretta.
Al out on the mound makes
shot.
pitch. Nice
Lee
shot.
shot delivered.
Use Gillette Blue Blades.
Down the left field
Little
line.
Larry gets down, gets a double handful.
The ball is rolling to the corner. It's being chased by Lowry.
GI waves up that
Ball web around third, coming on in to score, and holding up the pitch for the double is Mayo.
One ball, one strike.
Got themselves 5 runs on 4 hits. 3 hits coming off Roy and 1.
Harder works again.
Coming off the
Harder swings on it. There's a tie run going out of the right center field. Going over to the ball. Coming back to the plate. Coming in first for the out. Going right center field. Roy Cullenbine. Scooped in front of Doc Kramer to make the play out.
This afternoon. Swings, fouls it off.
That's one away in the last 4th inning for the Chicago Cubs.
Eddie Mayo, who doubled just a moment ago, drove in the left first after Weathers
Chicago
walked.
today.
Pumps one.
And his double was his 7th.
He's coming up now.
Left-hander delivers.
Mayo leading off.
Gabbard had a single in the first inning. Right field.
Doc Kramer swings on that one.
Count
On the
here,
ground down
has
to
to
Don
remove
Johnson.
the blanket.
Second Johnson bobbles it, picks it up, throws to first in time.
Max had 11 hits for
Johnny
Johnny
Bradley.
Bradley.
The ball game is going
Ball bobbled away from him. He reached up in the air with his right hand, plucked it out of the air, threw it to first to get Kramer. Mayo going to third on the
Another
fly.
ball that stays outside.
One out. Runner at third. Score 8-2 in favor of Detroit. And this third goes through the crowd. Greenberg comes to the plate.
Doc Kramer picks it up on the
First man,
third.
Newhouser,
Skip and fires it into
Big Hank.
the second baseman.
That's strikeout
Gabbard
number
is
1.
on with a solid hit. Center.
Greenberg has walked twice, sacrificed once, and struck out once. This is his 5th time at the plate in this ball game.
Stands here at Chicago. Very
Pitch is
steadily.
close to him and a little bit high. Ball 1.
Takes a look at the first pitch, and it's a high curve.
The Detroit partisans here, and their numbers are not
Play
leaving,
back in the first inning.
are shouting for Hank to get a hit.
Return for that
They'd
right
like to
now.
see him slug that long ball.
There's a fly ball to center. Doc Kramer goes back into his
Casso is walking around on the mound, kicking some dirt out of the way.
Here comes
Going
Gabbard
to
moving into
third.
third. Johnny Hope is waving him on in. Here comes the throw to the plate.
Casso, the pitcher for Chicago this afternoon, spells his name, P-A-S-S-E-A-U. There's the pitch. Greenberg swings on it, slices it out into left field, and Lowry comes in and makes a sensational running catch on it. There's the throw to the plate as Eddie Mayo comes in to score easily with run number 9. Mayo had to go back to third and touch up. Lowry came in, made a running catch on that line drive. Greenberg's out into left field, retiring Greenberg, but Mayo was speedy on his feet, came in to score run number 9 for Detroit.
Fly ball that was carried by the wind.
That makes it 2 out, nobody on, 2 runs in here in the top of the 8th inning, and up comes Cullenbine.
Came into the plate.
Cullenbine, who has been walked 8 times in this series, steps up there and fouls off the first pitch from Pascal. Strike 1.
Swings and misses for strike 1.
So the road becomes steeper for the Cubs.
Johnson with his double.
Casso delivers a little high. Cullenbine taking it for ball 1.
Run number 2.
1 ball, 1 strike.
Now a 6-2 ball game. Al delivers and Nicholson.
Cullenbine has struck out and strolled 3 times in this game. Another pitch to him is high again for ball 2.
That's a count on Nicholson. Dialed up and out the second.
Big Roy, who got off to a slow start in the series, come through in fair fashion. He has 5 hits out of 21 times up.
Delivers a fast curve under the knees of Nicholson.
Swings on that one. There's a towering high infield pop-up back on the grass under this Johnson now at second, and he takes it for the out.
There's 1 out for Chicago here in the 4th.
That retires the side to Detroit in the top of the 8th inning. 2 runs on 1 hit with no base runners left on, and with no Chicago errors. So at the end of 7.5 innings of play, the score is Detroit 9, Chicago 2. Well, it was Joe Cronin, famous for his affable way and his ready smile, who said earlier today that in his experience, no other shaving combination compares with the Gillette razor and Gillette Blue Blade. Now, I might add that in the Army and in the Navy, on land, on sea, and in the air, it's the Gillette razor and Gillette Blue Blade by overhauling odds.
Naturally so, for the Gillette Blue Blade and the Gillette Razor are made for each other in the same factory, by the same skilled craftsmen, to the same high precision standard. Yes, today's Gillette Blue Blade and your Gillette Razor are the perfectly matched shaving combination. They fit exactly, work together beautifully, and turn in the smoothest performance known in shaving. Remember, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blade with the sharpest edges ever honed. Now the home half of the eighth inning. And again, Hal Newhouser returns to the mound. And again, young Prince Hal. Will work that left arm of his.
Throws it over to first.
And he has been, despite the fact that he got off in series to a 12-game start and losing that first game at Detroit. He has been in the series after the season the main pitching help of the Detroit Tigers. Once Newhouser out there today. Pitching with just a couple of days left. And now he faces Don Johnson, the second baseman of the Tigers. That's right. Johnson swings on that one. There's a high foul being right into the stands. Strike one on Don. Johnson got a W his first time up in inning number 1. Rounded out in the third inning and struck out his last time up in inning number 6.
Julian Gillette's Capital Gas Sports Friday nights. Here in the Century newspaper, it is local station.
Newhouser pitches low into the dirt on the inside. Ball 1.
That is the 12th.
One ball, one strike.
Inning number 5. Off Newhouser. First one this is quite a knockdown drag-out ball game.
And young Newhouser this year won 25 games against 9 losses for Detroit. Last year he won 29 against 9 losses. He's hitting here this afternoon for his second World Series victory against the Detroit Tigers.
It's going to be Rudy Orr. Now, standing up there, the just one pitcher. He's hitting it 2-0. Came up in the first inning and popped up an hour.
Now he grips that ball. Ready to go. The 1-1 pitch to Johnson.
So York
is high. Ball 2. 2 balls, 1 strike.
Over 1 short. No hits and 1 try. That goes hitting the ball 5 and he has had 5 hits for the Chicago.
Johnson zips his bat, swings to the slow one, off balance, and fouls it off.
Rudy Orr. That goes swings on the ball at the short. Right back to Mayo. For 1 out to go on.
Now Hank Wise lining up in the bullpen for Chicago.
First pitch was here this afternoon. Andy Pafko hit one down to Skeeter Webb at short. He played it very nicely.
Newhouser taking more and more time with each passing pitch.
Coming down.
As the game goes on and on into its final stances. Pitches low into the dirt. Ball 3 on Don Johnson.
Chicago scores 1 time here in the last half on Rudy Orr. First inning. 1 run on 2 hits. Looks down at O'Neill behind third. These balls are very carefully. Watch their manager. And there was one
There's activity in the bullpen of the Tigers now, too.
The score stands.
Benson and Overmyer. Johnson swings on that one foul. On the ground outside of third base.
Now it's 1 and 2. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Paul Derringer.
9-2 the score stands. And every loyal Chicago fan glued to his seat here. We're moving to the last half of the 8th. There's a 3-2 pitch to Johnson. He swings on it, slaps it down. The shortstop is taken on the first bounce by Skeeter Webb. The throw to York in time. Johnson's out by 2 strikes.
Look sharp. Feel sharp. Be sharp.
Skeeter Webb's played a pretty snappy brand of baseball in this series. And guilty of only 1 error, and he's had more than his fair share of chances there at shortstop. Now here's Peanuts Lowry. The former MVP in the Army. Steps up there batting right-handed. 1 for 3 today. The delivery to him is high. Ball 1.
Outfield immediately when Outlaw comes up there.
Lowry's had 8 hits in the series out of 28 times up. Takes a call strike. That was a downer and had a lot of stuff on it.
To swing at that one, but pulled up in time to take it low. Ball 1. 1 ball and 1 strike. It's a count on third baseman Jimmy Outlaw.
That's inside that pitch. Ball 2. 2 balls, 2 strikes on Lowry. 1 out and nobody on in the last half of the 8th inning.
And it swung on and hit just over the outstretched fingertips of Hughes, out into left field for a base hit.
Hal Newhouser calmly working.
Singles right
winds up, left hands it in. It's swung on, blooped down the left field line. In comes Greenberg. He can't come up to it. It falls in for a hit for Lowry. And Lowry is on at first. That's his second hit of the afternoon. Left of him hit out there to Greenberg in left field. Now comes Cavaretta. That is the 7th hit off Newhouser. The 22nd hit off of him in the series. Bill Cavaretta, who's 2 for 3 this afternoon. Steps up there. Dark complexion. Good looking, very quiet. Pitch to him is on the inside for ball 1.
They're flying strikes off Outlaw. Slides under the peg and he's safe at second. he'll get credit for
Newhouser
the
works, swung on by Cabaretta, and it's hit back on the ground into center field. Lowry is turning his way down to third, and Kramer fields the ball into second. Lowry is at third, Cabaretta at first. That was the third hit today for Cabaretta. Now here's Pafko, batting right-handed. He has a triple and 3 times up today. And the pressure is on Handy Andy. Swings on that one, it's a high foul coming back into the stand. Strike one on Pafko. And here's the kid from the farm country of Wisconsin, who with his 5 brothers used to get up in the morning an hour ahead of time so they could get their farm chores done and go out and play some Pafko baseball. And here he is with his team behind at bat, with a chance to strike a great blow for his team, the Chicago Cubs, here in the 8th inning of the deciding game of this 45 World Series. Swings on that one, hits it on the ground, foul, outside at third base. Score is 9-2 with Detroit in front. These Cubs, they're not through yet. Newhouser carefully rubbing up a new ball. 2 strikes quickly on Pafko. He's fouled off 2 of them. The pitch is swung on. He strikes out. Newhouser struck out Pafko twice in a row with men on bases. And for Newhouser, that is strikeout number 8. In the series, it's his 20th strikeout. That makes it 2 out now for Chicago in the last of the 8th. And still Cabaretta's at first and Lowry at third. And here's Nicholson. Nicholson hasn't hit today. Hasn't gotten the ball out of the infield. Takes an outside pitch for ball 1. Nicholson, who has batted in 7 runs, more than anybody else in the series. There, batting left-handed, swings on one. There's a high, towering foul off to the right of the plate. Richards goes over to the stands, but it's going into the stands. That's a strike on Nicholson. 1 ball, 1 strike on Bad Bill. Nicholson, the big fellow from down in Chesterton, Maryland. Fellow who as a kid wanted to go to the United States Naval Academy at Annapolis, but colorblindness kept him out. So he went to Washington College instead, graduated, and here he is, a Major League Baseball star. 1-1 on him. That pitch is down a little bit low into the dirt. I think he foul-tipped it. Not sure. Foul tip hit Richards on the hand, and Richards is trotting over toward the dugout of the Tigers, and there will be time called now. Yep, Nicholson foul-tipped that one just slightly off of his bat, and it caught Richards on the hand, his right hand, and he promptly ran over toward the dugout, and I think that will be all for Richards. I believe Bob Swift is being waved in from the bullpen. So Richards has apparently hurt a finger on his throwing hand. And just to keep Newhouser warm, here comes Jimmy Wilson, I think. See who that is coming out to warm him up. Young Jimmy Miller, who it is, coming out to keep Newhouser warm as Bob Swift gets the tools of catching on. And he's coming in here as Richards is injured in the last half of the 8th inning. That's too bad for Paul.
Now, most stores have the Gillette Tech in stock right now. And you'll probably find one where you trade. So
1 ball, 2 strikes to count on the batter, Nicholson. He's batting in the clutch for Chicago in the last half of the 8th as these Cubs try to stay in the running. Cabaretta's at first, Lowry's at third. Now Steve O'Neill is walking out of the dugout of the Tigers and back to his spot, coaching behind third. And that'll be all in this series for Paul Richards. Richards has certainly done himself very handsomely in the series. Today he has driven in 4 runs in this, the 7th and deciding ball game, for a total of 6 runs batted in the series. He's had 2 doubles today, which gives him 4 hits out of 19 times up in the series. He was walked 4 times, and he struck out 3 times. That's a record of accomplishment on the part of Paul Richards that stamps him as a tremendous asset to the Tigers in this very, very thrilling 1945 series. And Steve O'Neill has stopped on his way back to third now to say a few words to his son-in-law, Skeeter Webb, who plays at shortstop. Jolly Charlie Grimm, with his team trailing by 4 runs, is cutting up capers galore. Now O'Neill seems to have inspected everything, and he's going back to the Tiger dugout. He swings, fouled off Swift, strike 1. 1 ball, 1 strike in Salina, Kansas. He said he thought, go away, you all. This game was born in a place called Kip, Kansas. 60 saw the Tigers with the family, and they tell him he was born in Salina. The best of their pitchers looking mighty keen, which is a small town outside of Salina, Kansas. These Cubs are fighting back. As we've mentioned before, walk the inside corner. And here's the star about it. Throws his bat down and walks away from the plate. And Charlie Grimm comes walking in from third. And he's not happy now. Pitching to Swift now. And Swift is taking his throw ball. Now he grabs the inside corner. Now Hughes and Passarella got themselves a bit of a roundelay on down there. Hughes is sticking his chin out at Passarella. Here's the situation. There are 2 outs in the last 8. Military police Lowry is at third. Cabaretta is at first. They both hit Newhouser. Now he's count on Bill Nicholson again. 1 ball, 2 strikes. On the mound, Hal Newhouser is playing his arms around like a windmill. Again, he's stuck out of Newhouser. Good ready to go on outside. Ball 2. Pitch to Hughes. It's inside. Ball 2. 2 balls, 2 outs, 2 on. And a derisive roar from the crowd, who disagreed with the call on that last one. 2-2 now on Roy Hughes. Nicholson swings on it, and it's foul on the ground down the first baseline. Here it is. Hughes makes it, and it's called strike 3. And Hughes is sore again. But he's out of there. Though Detroit had the lead, Roy Hughes struck out in this ball game. This game, like all baseball games, that's one of the thrilling aspects. 2 of them collected last time. Is not opening until the last man coming up. Nobody is saying that to himself more sharply than Nicholson at the plate now. Swings on one, slaps it out to center field. It's good for a hit. It's going to the right of Kramer. Lowry has already scored. Cabaretta is rounding third and holding up third. Nicholson's into second with a double. A curveball that whipped in and over. Sauer's an outfielder by trade, and he hails from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. A right-handed batsman. Cabaretta was held up at third as that ball was retrieved. Down low into the left field by Kramer and hooked in. Kramer has a pretty good throwing arm. So Nicholson moving a second now. Cabaretta is at third. 1 run is scored. The score is 9-3, and the batter is Mickey Livingston. That pitch is high for ball 2. That's the 8th run batted in this series for Nicholson, and it ties him for a 7-game series record with Gus Garson of Washington, who batted in 8 runs in 24, and Al Simmons of the A's, who hit in 8 runs in 1931. Of course, in a 4-game series, Gehrig in 28 drove in 9. Now there's a swinging strike by Mickey Livingston, who missed it here behind the catcher. Livingston batting right-handed. 2 strikes. 1 for 3 today. He has driven in 4 runs in this series. Passau or Erickson, I believe. Out of 21 times. They both seem to be working out down there. The pitch is good for a call strike. Livingston started for it, checked his swing, and Art Passarella calls it a strike. Now a new ball put in play. Newhouser has it rubbed up. So it's 2 strikes on Livingston. Runners at second and third. It's a little too high. Chicago, 2 out. Makes it ball 3 for a full count on Sauer. Trying to rally. Newhouser pitches. There's been more pitches used in this series. Ball 1. One ball, 2 strikes. Baseball history. Here it is. Sauer swings, strikes out. Discharged DI was in the Army ground. Strikeout number 4 for Newhouser. 2 outs in baseball. He's had his out Chicago in the last half of the customer. Swings, strikes out. And now the leadoff hitter, Stanley Newhouser, puts through his 9th batting around of the ball game to retire the side in the last half of the 8th inning. Stanley has been turned back. That brought 1 run in Chicago on 3 hits. 2 base runners left on. There were no Detroit errors. So the score at the end of 8 full innings of this thrilling 7th exciting game of the 45 series. Newhouser seems to be getting sharper and sharper as this game wears along. Chicago 3. Well, you can't afford to miss Bill Corum's highlights of today's thrilling ball game. Ground ball to short. Stay tuned in. Scoops it out of the great reporter. Just right off the cup. Just as soon as the last man is out in this game here at Wrigley Field. So in the last, the 5th inning, there's nothing across for the Chicago Cubs. And the score at the end of 5 full innings of play is Detroit 6 and Chicago 2. And I believe it's big blonde Paul Erickson who's coming in to be the next pitcher for the Cubs. We'll wait till he's officially announced. He's taking the stride in, though, from out there in left field where the bullpen is located. And while Erickson is coming to the mound to complete his warm-up pitches and to appear as the 4th pitcher this afternoon for the Chicago Cubs, let's pause here 10 seconds for station identification. Remember, men, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
This is WGN Chicago, serving the Middle West.